Okie dokie, I believe we are all the way live. Hello and welcome to my graveyard. I am your host of the evening, the Cemetery Man from Salem, Mass. Always taking names and kicking candy ass, live in the color here with you on Grande's Graveyard. Welcome back to another edition of the show. This week we have one of my favorite people in the whole wide world to talk about anything with, one of my best friends. He is the man, the myth, the legend. He is Nate Murphy, aka the Horrorboy. What's going on, good brother Nate?
Not much. I feel terrible because I keep every time I'm on the show I keep you waiting. I'm really sorry about that, man. But it's good to be back. I'm I've been wanting to talk about Spider-Man for a long time. So yeah, it's just great to be here. Thank you for having me on, man. I couldn't wait to do this episode.
Hey man, you're more than welcome always, because you're one of my best friends, number one, and number two, I was trying to come up with an idea of what to have you on for. And we a couple years ago, I think we did an episode on Batman together, and it was amazing. It was on your channel, and fast forward down the road, you were like, "Hey man, I'm free on the 14th. What would you want to do if you had me on?" And I said, "Hey man, ball's in your court." And you said, "Hey, I've been reading some Spider-Man lately," and I was like, "Yo, why the hell not do some Spider-Man?" So that is the topic for tonight's show. We're going to be talking all things Spider-Man. Before we get underway, we're going to talk about our fandom and how we fell in love with the titular character, if you will. But before then, we got a couple comments. The Master Fear was here before we even started. Fear, brother, what's going on? Slasher Fred is in the house. Slasher Fred, what's going on, buddy? Ciao Grande, Mateo's in the house. With great live comes great responsibility. That's true, man. I went through a lot of shit to get this live to sound okay audio-wise. Falcon Adams in the house. John Day, my man. How you feeling, brother? Hey, man, I am chilling like a fucking villain over here, buddy. I feel like the power of the sun is in the palm of my fucking hands, man. Welcome to the graveyard. Robert Simeone, I love Tobe Maguire Spider-Man. Robert, welcome to the show, my friend. I am a huge Tobe Maguire Mark II. He's my favorite of the three by far. But I'm going to pass the ball back to good brother Nate. Nate, how did you fall in love with Spider-Man? What is some of the things that made you a big fan of the character, the comic, and the hero that is Spider-Man?
Well, it's crazy because
Uh-oh, they got muted.
Still
with me, buddy?
Do I sound all right? I hope my mic didn't just disconnect.
It did disconnect for a second. I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, my bad.
That's okay.
But me and Spider-Man, we go way back. That was probably the first, I would say, Spider-Man and the Justice League were like the earliest superhero kind of things that I was reading at the time. And yeah, I mean, definitely the Justice League stuff. But with Spider-Man, it was, vaguely remember watching a little of the
there we go of the animated series a little bit as a kid. And I remember I had the full get-up of Spider-Man. Blankets, posters all over the walls. I had the pajamas. I had just everything, man. Dinner plates, it all. I had everything Spider-Man.
Dinner plates? Jeez,
yeah, I had everything.
Dark, man.
Yeah, because it went Spider-Man and Justice League. I would watch those constantly. And do you remember that one show? What was that called? Electroshock or something, whatever that. What was that called?
Static Shock.
Yeah. Teen Titans. I used to watch that all the time growing up. So those were definitely the ones that I seen a lot. But Spider-Man is very special to me because it's probably the first movie I remember watching too. Because the Sam Raimi movies, those were some of the first movies I remember watching. And I had the same DVD copy ever since I was, I don't have it anymore, but I had it for years, ever since I was a kid. Yeah, that exact same one. The
20 years this DVD has been with me. It's fucking crazy.
I had the same exact edition, man. I had it for years, too. I don't know what happened to it. I think I just got the newer box set. I might just, sold it or something. I can't remember, but...
The box set, did that include all of them? Because I know they did a few different I know there's a 4K set of the first of the Raimi 3 out now, and there's one where it's you have the Amazing Spider-Man, the first 3, it's I don't know. Oh, is that the edition you have?
I have this one, so it has kind of an older one. It has the first three, then it has Amazing Spider-Man, and then it has Homecoming.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like $15, I think.
That's well worth it. That's 6 movies right there. That's really well worth it, man. That's awesome. I had a similar kind of growing up though with the character. I had the pajamas and stuff too. I had the ones with like the web armpits and shit. So like it was, I mean, I loved it, and I'll never forget going to the movies to see the original movie, which we're going to talk about in a little bit here, with my grandmother. And I remember how big of a blockbuster that was at the time. I was at the age of maybe 5 years old when it came out. I remember going with my grandmother, and it was just us and another couple, an older couple in the theater. You know, usually you think, oh, it's sold out, whatever. She probably took me to a Sunday matinee showing of fucking Spider-Man as a kid. And I just thought I was blown away by the movie. And that really got me into, you know, all the video games, which I have here. This is Spider-Man on the PS1 way, way back in the day. I believe this game came out in the year 2000. One of my all-time favorite video games. I also have the sequel, Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro, which is another great PlayStation 1 video game. And then I also always played this little gem growing up, Spider-Man 2 for the PS2. It's basically like Grand Theft Auto, but with Spider-Man. Like, you have these street missions, you have delivered pizzas.
That's the one I grew up with too. I played that all the time, man.
I played this thing like this disc is played to death, man. Like I'm surprised this thing still plays. I also played Ultimate Spider-Man, which was more of like a comic feel PlayStation 2 Spider-Man game. And I don't know, I adored playing all the video game stuff growing up. And also, to show how big of a fan, I'm gonna this is impromptu because I got this on the wall here. In New York City, I must have been maybe 6 years old. I got this. They used to have these people in the street in New York City, and they would like make drawings for you. And pretty cool enough, they made this for me. It says my name in all painted colors here. And here, I can't really see what I'm showing up here. But how cool is that?
That is really awesome, dude.
That the guy he drew it up in like less than 15 minutes too. Like, it was just incredible. And they put this, you know, John, and I have it hung up in my man cave forever now, because this character was a really big deal to me in my early life and childhood. Like, it was something I always looked up to. And that's a big reason why I just sort of always gravitated towards the character. I think it was the younger thing, and the fact that, you know, Teen Titans, Spider-Man, these were all things that I sort of gravitated to at a younger age, probably because, you know, I was growing up at the time. But Spider-Man is just like, for a solo hero, easily my favorite of all time. I mean, it doesn't really get much better than Spider-Man. But yeah, no, I was a huge fan as well. I had the Spider-Man board game and shit, it was Spider-Man versus the Green Goblin. It was fantastic. Played that shit to death. I don't know. I love it. But what about, I know weren't you a big fan of Spider-Man, the animated series?
Yeah, like that was probably the first thing that I watched of Spider-Man was the animated series. And the only kind of thing that I got as far as a taste of the comics go is the posters that I had, because the posters were from the comics. So like it would show different villains. So like I had like, I always remember really liking Electro and Lizard and Doc Ock, you know, and the animated series, yeah, that was like the first thing that I ended up watching from Spider-Man. And I went back through, and I think on Disney Plus they have the animated series on there. So yeah, I don't know if someone said that there's something going on with the like the order. I think it was Trenchy that mentioned the order might have been a little bit out of whack, but rewatching the animated series, I really enjoyed it. I haven't completed it yet, but so far I'm really having fun with it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm not sure you can still hear me.
Yeah, I can't see you though. Your screen went blank.
Yeah, I'm gonna dip out really quick to reset my camera. I think it blurred up the camera there, but as long as you still hear me right now, I'll be right back. But yeah, no, I absolutely adored Spider-Man the animated series as well, and I remember the voice actor doing a really tremendous job. I loved the stuff with Black Cat, Felicia Hardy. I don't know, there was just something about Spider-Man the animated series that I sort of gravitated towards. I'm just a giant fan of it. If you want, go through comments, and I'll be right back. I'm just gonna fucking reset my camera here.
Okay.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that for me, what I found about the animated series, which if there's people out there who haven't seen the 90s animated series, it really captures the comics, like the look of everything, the way everything is drawn and illustrated and animated. It really does capture the stuff from the comics fairly well. All right, there you go. You're back. I see you now.
Sorry, yeah, no. When I put this up to the screen, it made everything blurry, and I was like, I don't want to be blurry the whole show. But yeah, no. Also, comic wise, can't beat it. I mean, I was a huge Spider-Man comics guy. Scorpion being my favorite all-time villain. I absolutely loved the Scorpion. I just loved everything about him.
Yeah. Put him in a movie, please. Please put Scorpion in a movie.
Why have they not done it Homecoming? Yet? They set that up, and it never happened, which is weird.
Exactly.
Maybe down the road, but I don't know.
They set up more things in Homecoming than Far From Home, and in Homecoming they have a Miles Morales like hint because
really?
Donald Glover he calls his I think it's like his nephew, so I'm guessing that Donald Glover would be the Prowler. And so he was saying like Miles and stuff. So it hinted at a Miles Morales in the MCU. So
really, I did not know that. That's very interesting. Let's read a couple of these and then we'll get into the movies. For me, the Amazing Spider-Man saga is the weakest, but Andrew Garfield is my favorite Spider-Man of the three.
You're gonna hate my thoughts on that. You're gonna hate my thoughts.
Oh, really? Okay, that's it. Okay, so maybe is it the favorite of the three, and then Garfield's your least favorite? That would be interesting. There was 60s Spider-Man cartoon. Oh, of course. There goes the Spider-Man. I love this.
Yeah, the 80s cartoon, and I checked out Spider-Woman too on Disney Plus. They have
really? That's cool. Love the old Sam Raimi Spider-Man games. Oh, me too. I absolutely
classics.
This game in particular, I played it through.
Yes.
How many times?
I played all three, but the second one was the one that I'm really familiar with.
It's the best of the three. The first one, it's still working out the kinks, and then the third one, they did a little bit too much with that, like, what's it called, like stop motion, where it's like you hit the buttons as I don't know. I played the first Spider-Man game on Xbox, dude. That's a classic game. Colton, the guy, is in the house. Sup,
Colton?
I've seen things like that before. Sadly, never had the money to get one for me. Is that what were you referring to? I forget. I love Spider-Man so much. Oh, me too. Yeah, they do have it, but some of the episodes are out of order. Oh, okay. Live action Spider-Man series in the 70s. I never watched that. Did you?
I seen like a lot of reviews talking about it, and it's free on YouTube. The pilot is, at least. So I don't know if the show is on there for free, but I checked out a few minutes of it. I didn't mind it. I mean, for the 70s, early, days before comic book movies being made, for the budget, wasn't terrible. It has some meme-worthy moments in it, though. That's for sure.
Oh, sure. I'm sure they had plenty of memes. As did the Raimi trilogy is full of the memes.
Yes.
It's actually absurd. Ralph Bakshi work on Spider-Man 60s cartoon show. Very cool. Did you like Ultimate Spider-Man? I enjoyed the video game a lot, and that's a video game now. I don't know about you. I can't find it anywhere. Like every store I go to, they never ever have it. I finally got my hands on a copy of it. I was so excited. I got home for the PS2, opened it up, and it was the Xbox copy of the disc inside. And I was like, no, I don't have an original Xbox, so I couldn't play it.
I've had that happen to me before.
I swear to you, the only other time it ever happened was with a DVD. I bought the DVD of Wrong Turn, the slipcase edition. And I got home, opened it up, and there was no disc inside. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, I swear to God.
How did they forget the DVD?
Bro, I'm like, and I still have it because I liked the slip cover. I was like, ooh, slip cover. I slipped that son of a bitch off. Somebody slipped out the fucking disc on my dumb ass, and I didn't have it. I swear to God it happened. I had it in there. Yeah, he's the Prowler in the movie. Well, not yet. He might become the Prowler later on in the MCU. Okay. And I wish they did Spider-Man 4 with Maguire. Hey, man, you never know. You truly never know.
Especially right now.
Right?
Yeah. Anything could happen.
Thank you. I honestly, on my mind blank. QuickTime. That's exactly it. I know they have them in the Spider-Man PS4 game as well, which that's another great game. I think you have a copy of it, man.
Yeah.
One of my favorite games in the last 10 years. I mean, one of the best experiences video game wise, story, voice acting, costumes, a masterpiece of a game. I like Spider-Man. Oh, me too. From the 60s or 70s with Iceman and was it Firestarter? That was such a great show. You know me, I'm all about Spider-Man. Me too. Horrorboy, whatever you say, no hate, only love for everyone. Everyone is entitled to their own opinions. Absolutely. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I'm all up for some unpopular opinions because I have some unpopular opinions when we get to these movies down the road. Although I don't know if I hate the movies, but a certain actor I'm sort of on. So I don't know. We'll definitely we'll get there. Do you guys watch the new Spider-Man cartoons? I don't. Do you?
No, I'm not too familiar with the newer ones. No, I mean I've seen them on.
There was one with Neil Patrick Harris on MTV. That was really good. That was only for one season though.
Yeah, I didn't see that one yet either. There was one on there called, it's not new, but it was called Spider-Man Unlimited. I'd never heard of that show, so I don't know what that was all about. It's not new though. I think Carr said something about it's like I want to say an unofficial follow-up to the 90s show, but I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
Other than that, the new stuff, I have no clue.
Oh, no, me neither at all. Anita's in the house. Anita, K-Tal, babe. Hi, I can only say that I love Spider-Man, but only 1 and 2. I think the next one didn't move me like the first ones. Well, these are 2 of my favorites right here. So probably my favorite 2 of the bunch. So I would have to agree with that completely. Let's see. James Moss, the 80s cartoon show. Firestar. Okay. I'm a little rusty, ladies and gents. I don't know. Keep those movies away. Oh, which ones? Oh, boy. R.I.P. Of course. One of my favorites. I posted a tribute to him. That was Spider-Man, the new animated series. It was CGI. Electro was pretty good in it. So was the Lizard. And there was one with Drake Bell. I never watched the one with Drake Bell. That was Ultimate Spider-Man. Yeah, Drake Bell was fucking Spider-Man.
What?
He's in some legal trouble now.
Yeah.
Spider-Man, he's not so friendly in the neighborhood. Maybe he's a little too fucking friendly in the neighborhood. But I don't know.
A little too friendly.
Maybe a little bit. I don't know. But I figure, man, we got 8 films to run through here. And I am super excited tonight to do all things Spider-Man. So first and foremost, cheers to you. Cheers to everybody watching. I'm so excited tonight to talk.
I'm holding my invisible beverage.
The invisible boatmobile. The invisible beverage. But it all started. I know there are probably people say that, there was a 70s live action Spider-Man movie in Italy, I believe. Yeah. I don't know. We're not covering that on the show.
Nobody really talked about. I didn't even know about that till I seen like a retrospective where they went over everything, pretty much Spider-Man. I'm like, oh, that exists. Oh, okay. Yeah. No offense, just
Yeah, exactly. It might be okay, but I don't know. We're starting in the year 2002, 20 years ago. This is like 20 years of Spider-Man, the show. This is pretty interesting. Where Sam Raimi took the director's chair and brought us this gem from the year 2002. This is Spider-Man. Yes, Spider-Man from 2002. Initial thoughts on this one, Nate. What do you think about this one?
That is a very special movie. That and the second one are 2 movies that, like I said, I remember I got the second one on Christmas, and because I had loved the first one, I watched it 24/7. Like that, The Matrix and Blade, all those like late 90s, early 2000s action thrillers type stuff. I was watching those growing up, and I might have watched Blade and Matrix a little bit older, but with Spider-Man especially, that one, and then Hulk. I remember Hulk from 2003. I used to watch that a lot.
Me too. Yeah, that movie hasn't aged well.
I was gonna say I rewatched it recently, and I'm just like, oof. They tried. I'll give them something. They tried there. No, but that Spider-Man 2002 is one of my favorite movies of all time, man. And then it's really hard to pick a favorite between that and the second one. But the first one I think is so good because it does the simplicity factor, but it didn't need to be anything else than the simplicity factor. As far as you're getting the origin story, which is like the first origin story on film for Spider-Man, not kind of stuff before, but like the first mainstream origin story. So it doesn't bother me. It never bothered me. It was cool. It was interesting. And Sam Raimi really just, what I was really impressed with, which is there are things in this movie that still look good to this day. And, you know, whether it's the slow motion scene of him dodging the blades and everything that Green Goblin throws at him, or just certain action scenes. And I just, really special movie, man. Like action scenes, love the Green Goblin. It's the first movie, so it was a no-brainer. You know, had to be Green Goblin. And I personally don't hate the look Green Goblin. I know people hate that look. I seen some footage of the original suit, and you know, I get it. People were like, it's more comic accurate, but you know, if this is Sam Raimi. If Sam Raimi didn't think it wasn't going to look that good on film, then like, you know, maybe they picked the other one because maybe it just looks better on film. I don't know, but yeah, it's a very special movie to me, man. I really enjoy it.
I would have to agree. I think this is a really special movie for me too. Like it just caught me at the right time in my life. Like, because I'm, you know, ripe old age of 5. I went to the movie theater, and superhero movies around this time, you got to think like maybe X-Men had come out in 2000, the first X-Men movie with, you know, live action wise. And the Hulk 2003 movie, which was a flop, came out the following year. I had grown up with like movies like Batman Forever, Batman and Robin. Those are really the childhood movies, superhero wise, that I had grown up with. So going to the movie theater and seeing this was just a tremendous experience for me. And I think there was no better guy they could have picked than Sam Raimi, because right off the bat, you know, us being the horror fans that we are, what a great choice, because Sam Raimi is a guy that could do anything with the camera. He makes the camera almost like another character in the film. And this particular movie, I love some of the stuff he does with the slow-mo shots, like slowing down time when Flash Thompson goes to beat up Peter Parker, and, you know, some of the action sequences towards the end, the slow-mo zooms, all these things that he does with the camera just felt very, you know, energetic to me. And this entire cast, I know they get a lot of shit now. I feel like this cast particularly now gets a lot of shit, but I really enjoy Tobe Maguire as the lead character, Peter Parker. I think he does a great job. I know a lot of people say, oh, well, he's too old for the role, blah, blah, blah. But I think he did a tremendous job, because he really portrayed the great innocence and naiveness of a young, you know, up and coming superhero. And I think he does a good job. I like Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane. Granted, I would say in the sequels, she gets a little bit annoying. In this film, though, she's fine. James Franco is Harry Osborn. I really enjoy. All around, though, I think you got a good cast. Of course, Rosemary Harris is Aunt May. Easily the best Aunt May out of any of these movies for me. Cliff Robertson is Uncle Ben. And J.K. Simmons is J. Jonah Jameson. Literally one of the greatest casting choices of all time. How absolutely spot on he is as JJJ. I mean, tremendous. And of course, Willem Dafoe is the Green Goblin, really, really hamming it up and dialing it up past 10 all the way to 20 in this movie. You know how much I sacrificed? I mean, he is unbelievably fun in this movie. And I think, even though, you know, a lot of people say, oh, the origin, you got to get through the origin, blah, blah, blah. I think it's perfectly paced out.
Yeah, me too.
I really do. I think the build for him to become a hero is fun, where he tries the wrestling thing and wrestles the Macho Man. What are you doing up there? I'm staying away from you. That's a nice outfit. Did your husband give it to you? And I think Tobe Maguire did a good job with the jokes. I know a lot of people don't.
Yeah, me too.
Humor. But I don't know. For me, these movies really hit well. Like I like Sam Raimi's humor. I like when movies get serious. To me, the Raimi trilogy, it's the total package out of all of these movies. I really think this first one was a perfect start point for Spider-Man. And I think, you know, it really translated well. I think at the time, this was a super popular movie. I think to this day, it's the second highest grossing of any of them. So, I mean, that's impressive. But what did you think of the action sequences in this? Because I know a lot of people say, oh, the CGI doesn't hold up well. What do you think of the action sequences in this one?
Yeah, where the CGI is lacking, I think Sam Raimi makes up for in his direction of the action scenes, because I love Spider-Man 2 and 3. I do. But I feel like this movie had a lot more practical than people give it credit for. Like, there are scenes that I think look great. The whole scene, like, let's be honest. If they did that ending fight scene between the Green Goblin and Spider-Man today, it'd be CGI. But I love the practical walls breaking through, every hit, every punch, wire work, like that kind of stuff gets overlooked with this movie. And when I rewatched it back, I really like the practicality of it. Yeah, there is CGI that, to me, the CGI is the one issue I have with the movie. And it just goes to show that effects are just a part of a movie. They don't make up the whole film. Like, just because a movie doesn't have the greatest special effects. I mean, look at how many movies back in the day people love that maybe we look back on them and go, that special effects are a little eh. But for some reason with this movie, people point it out a lot more. And, you know, I think that the action scenes, whether it's the parade scene, I think that's a very well-made sequence. The balcony scene, the balcony's crumbling and she's falling, looks great. The scene where when Peter is shooting the webs and he figures out how to do it, and the whole swinging down, you know, yeah, I really love that scene. You know, I just think a lot of the scenes are practical, and I remember the fire sequence looking pretty practical as well when he's in the burning building. That surprised the hell out of me because that looked pretty practical.
That sequence is tremendous too. As Spider-Man goes in to save, oh, my baby, my baby. He goes in to save the baby, and then you hear an old woman crying out for help. He goes in, where are you? Tell me where you are.
That scared me.
Tell me where you are, Josh. He's and then bam, Goblin punches him.
That scared me when I was a kid. When I was a kid, that part scared me. I was like, whoa.
And that's the thing, man, with this and then in part 2, that hospital scene with Doc Ock, Raimi brings horror elements to these movies. Like, because that guy, that's where he came from. He's from the school of old school horror movie. And there's quite a few things that I find scary. Like when Goblin transforms in this movie, that's a pretty scary ass scene. He throws that guy through the fucking glass and, you know, hisses and jumps up. I mean, back to formula, you know. But that burning building, you're pathetically predictable. And what about my proposal? Are you in or are you out? It's out, Gabby. Out of your mind. I love it. Wrong answer. It's just, I think, to me, this is a comic book come to life. And I think that a lot of these, you know, like the Tom Holland ones are more in the Marvel universe. Amazing Spider-Man, I think, was trying to do everything this didn't do. Like it completely shifts what these movies were about. And a lot of people say that's for the worst, but we'll get into what we think. I think, though, to me, the perfect live adaptation of this character is in this movie. I really enjoy the comic book coming to life before my eyes. You know, a lot of people have issues with the humor. I don't. I find when it's trying to be funny, I do find it funny. Fly up and away, Webb. Because you wonder, how the hell did he figure out how to swing webs and stuff like that? And I don't want to fight you, Flash. I don't want to fight me neither. You know, some of the stupid things that have become memes and popular. So also another thing about this movie, though, what did you think about them changing up some of the things? Instead of the web shooters, he has the organic web fluid in his arm. A lot of people hate that. I love that personally.
Yeah, I honestly, for the longest time, did not know Spider-Man even had web shooters until I had watched The Amazing Spider-Man and I'd heard about from people, oh, no, he didn't have that. Because I said to somebody, I'm like, yeah, I like how he can climb walls and shoot webs. And somebody's like, that's only in the Sam Raimi movies. I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, well, yeah, he doesn't shoot webs in the comic book. I'm like, so he has every other power of a spider, but he can't shoot webs? Like, that was... I like the organic webs better because, you know, I just think it makes more... Like, to me, it makes more sense. I know to some people it doesn't make any sense, but I prefer the natural web shooters. I love the man-made ones, but... You know, I like the idea of it being the organic web shooters a lot better because I think it creates a better story arc in the second movie. And that arc in that movie needed the whole, I can't shoot webs, I can't crawl on walls. That part I loved. And the big part of it was he can't shoot the webs and swing anymore. So, you know, I thought it really added to the story in a way.
I agree completely. I always thought it was cool. And I liked his hands, like sort of his fingertips.
Yeah, the hairs.
Like, so he could crawl. I thought that was a really cool scene. And
practical too, not CGI. Practical look. Like that would have been CGI. Like a lot of that stuff done, the whole like Spidey sense thing would have been CGI today. Which it might have been CGI, but I don't know how they did that. But it looks cool. Like, I just think it looks cool to me.
I agree. And I think the whole thing with Uncle Ben in this movie, I would say it's done much better here than it is in The Amazing Spider-Man. It's
For
a
sure.
very heartfelt scene as he drops him off to do the wrestling. And of course, he does beat Bonesaw is ready. He beats him for supposed to win the 300 or the $3,000. Yeah, it said 3,000. And he gives him like, a couple $100 and he's like pissed off about it. Of course, the next minute the guy gets robbed. He lets him go. And because he lets him go, Uncle Ben gets shot and killed. And then, he goes out and chases the guy. That whole sequence really works for me. I think Tobe Maguire's performance is very genuine. You almost tear up too when he's crying and Uncle Peter, they're holding hands and shit. It's very emotional as he goes after and fights this guy. And I love how that whole sequence is shot too when he's cornered the guy that's killed his uncle. How he's almost buttering him up. Again, more horror elements in a superhero film. You don't see that in a lot of superhero films, but Spider-Man in the shadows, buttering this guy up and then beating the holy hell out of him. Just give me a chance. What about my uncle? Did you give him a chance? I think it's really intense stuff. And of course, the guy accidentally falls out the window to his death. I really always thought that sequence was really emotionally impactful because up until that point, you're having fun with the movie. Like, okay, he's got his powers. He won a little wrestling match. But to me, the tonal shift, when things have to get serious, they get serious.
Yeah.
And of course, he comes up with the suit and he starts working for JJJ. And I love the whole build of this movie. It's a 2-hour movie, but it really flies by to me.
Yeah.
And then meanwhile, you get Dafoe as the Green Goblin getting his origin story and stuff like that. And I would say these two had tremendous chemistry on screen. Of course, I always remember the scene where they're on top of the building and he's saying to Spider-Man, eventually they will hate you, and in spite of everything you've done for them, eventually they will hate you. And he thinks about it. He's like, join me together and we'll be unstoppable. And I love Dafoe's whole arc in this movie of him just trying to butter up Spider-Man to come to the dark side with me. And Spider-Man won't do it. And it's a really fun little, interactions you get throughout this movie between the two. Of course, the Thanksgiving dinner, which always, that's one of my favorite, which she smacks him and he's who's going to say grace. Amazing. Oh, I got clipped by a fucking bike messenger or whatever. And that's when he finds out that he's Spider. Oh my God. Like it's really tremendously built up to, but to me, the thing that makes this movie stand out is the fight at the end. I think it's one of the great final fights in history, man. What do you think about that fight?
It is intense. Like it's still to me, like No Way Home tried to match that, but I feel like no other Spider-Man movies really match that brutality because he beats the shit out of Spider-Man, but he does it in a way where like it's not like the whole movie he was beating up Spider-Man. Spider-Man was hitting him, he was hitting him back. But this part, he was beating him down. And it was one of the most brutal fights I've seen in a comic book movie, for sure. It's really brutal. You see the punch and the slobber, slow-mo, the kick to the... You kind of feel like... I remember as a kid, I was legit scared. I'm like, is he going to die? Like, am I going to see the dude die in front of me? Like, because, when you're a kid, you don't want the hero to die.
Of course.
But when it creates that suspense, which is another thing Sam Raimi knows about is the suspense factor of, this could be like you've spun your last web, Spider-Man. That part, all hope is pretty much lost until, MJ and I are gonna have a hell of a time. And then
my favorite line of the movie.
And he rises up and he throws him back. That is just a crowd pleasing moment right there. Absolutely. Yeah, just a great fight scene.
It is. It's very. I love the mood of it too. Like this dark, old, abandoned church, and Goblin has just thrown him through after saving all these kids and MJ on the bridge. Every hero must make a choice. Now choose. I love that. Almost the Batman Forever in me loves that. It's like, Bruce's love or the Dark Knight's junior partner. Like it's the same thing, and he lets them both go. And I love how there's a point where Goblin's going to kill him. And all these people on the bridge start throwing shit at Dafoe. And you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. That whole New York United strong. And me being from New York, I always took big inspiration and pride from that. I was like, that's why Spider-Man's our guy, man. We'll fucking fight with him. And they do that in the second film too. You want him, you got to go through me. I love that. That's not in any of the other Spider-Man films.
No.
Using New York as a city to, say that we're united with Spider-Man. Spider-Man may be the leader, but we got his back too. And I love that. But Defoe throws him through the church, the pumpkin bomb to the face. I love how they do all the battle scars. The mask is all destroyed. He's bleeding. He tries to web, and Goblin just rips right through it, beats the holy hell out of him. I mean, it's a very, very brutal fight scene. It's tremendously done. And once, like you said, MJ and I gonna have a hell of a time. He pushes him back, and the triumphant heroic moment. And he's just beating the hell out of him. And then Goblin tries to, Peter, stop! It's me. He tries the one last, like, I'm Dr. Jekyll again. I'm not Mr. Hyde. I couldn't stop it. And he hits waiting for the glider to kill him. You're like, oh my God, you bastard. And then the classic line with Robert mentioned here, Godspeed, Spider-Man.
Oh.
And that's a brutal, like, the gore of that. You're like, oh shit, like, that's something you'd see in a Final Destination movie or something. Like,
and he's coughing up blood too. Like, that's intense.
Yeah, that must have been a brutal, like, aftermath, and I don't know. There's just something about that final fight scene that I really loved. And as a kid, I think of all these movies, that's the most emotional and brutal fight of the entire series. And I like Peter, don't tell Harry, and he can't do it. And at the end of this film, he realizes that he, can't endanger the ones he loves. If his enemies find out that he's Spider-Man, he obviously, puts them in danger too. And they have this whole web swinging sequence towards the end. And I think it's tremendously done. Yeah. I like all the special effects, web swinging wise. I don't know. To me, this movie's the total package. Like, there's not really much I have a problem with. And 20 years later, I rewatched it, in prep for this show. 20 years later, I still think it holds up great.
Absolutely.
I love it. If you had to rate it out of 10, what would you give it, man?
Pretty high up there, probably a 9. I'd say 9? A solid 9. Yeah,
I'm gonna
probably 9.5. Yeah, probably, like, I would give it a 10. Yeah, like, it's somewhere around like 9.5, 10. Like, it's to me, that and the second movie are just high up there. Quality movies for sure.
Absolutely. I love this film. To me, one that will forever be near and dear to my heart. Like, one of the first movies I ever remember going to the movie theater and seeing and having just a great time. And I don't know, I love everything about this movie. I really herald this as one of my all-time favorite superhero movies. It's definitely right up there. Let's see. Granted, there's a lot of comments, so we're going to skip a lot of them. If you guys ever seen the movie Maximum Overdrive, the Green Goblin image is on the truck. Absolutely. Yeah. It's Emilio Estevez. Emilio. The Master of Fear says 10 out of 10. I agree completely. I think it's one of the best superhero movies of all time. My name is the Human Spider. He got my name wrong. Of course, the Bruce Campbell cameo. So cool to see if you're an Evil Dead fan. But fast forward 2 years later down the road, we get the sequel from the year 2004. This is Spider-Man 2. I got to say right off the bat, my favorite of any of these movies. Easily my favorite, by a mile my favorite. I love this movie. A perfect sequel, in my opinion. It's these two for me are easily my top two. But Spider-Man 2 probably holds the title of being my favorite. But what are some of your thoughts on this one, man?
That was the one that I remember. I remember that one a lot more than the first one, because the first one came out when I was pretty young. But that one I remember getting on DVD around when it came out for Christmas, and I was flipping out. And I remember watching it immediately after opening up all the presents and everything. And once again, it's probably one of the best comic book adaptations out there. To me, it's just got everything the first movie had plus more. It's taking what the first movie had set up and doing more with it. It's building the world of Spider-Man. It's having more stuff in there. You have a new villain. You have new problems. You have a strong focus on the story and Peter Parker. And that part I really loved, because a lot of superhero movies do that whole, well, let's just make it all about this superhero. And then this will be in the background for who he is behind the mask. And then some I feel like do a little bit too much of the behind the mask stuff. Like to me, Dark Knight Trilogy does that, where I'm like, okay, I've seen Bruce Wayne for like an hour and a half. I'm ready to see Batman now, you know. But with this movie, it makes it so like the Peter Parker character is so relatable, you know, just the little moments that make a lot of good impacts. And you know, whether he's reading the poetry and the laundromat, he's like,
day by day he gazed upon her.
day by day he gazed upon her, you know, and like him dealing with the real life problems, you know, having the apartment, the door doesn't work, rent, you know, the getting fired from the job, delivering the pizzas. You're like, I'm not paying for those. Pizza time.
Pizza time.
I love when he's got the claws that he's pushed on the broom. But like they even apply it to the Spider-Man side of things, because he can't, you know, his life's kind of falling apart. He's late for school, he's late for work, he's losing jobs, he's losing money. And I love the story. This movie has not only one of the best villains as far as Doc Ock, and he's wonderfully portrayed by a fantastic actor that did
Alfred Molina.
Alfred Molina, yeah. And he just excellent job there. Great second villain in the series. And I just think that not only are the action scenes upped, and not only are the moments upped, and not only is the crowd pleasing moments there and everything the first movie had, but I think that the reason why people like this one the most, and I can probably say this one's my favorite too, is because it adds a whole another layer of story to this movie, and it makes Peter Parker a very relatable character. And the moment where he's staring and he's realizing that the hairs on his hand are going away and he's becoming a human again, he's like, I must be Spider-Man no more. And he stares and he's like, no more. And he throws the suit away. Wonderful scene. Like that, and then it gets followed up by raindrops are falling on my head. Not a care in the world. He's just seeing things going by. He's like, I'm okay.
Taking a giant bite of a fucking hot dog.
Yeah.
I love that shit. I would do the same thing. Oh shit, trouble? Give me that fucking hot dog. I'm gonna eat the whole thing in one bite. No, I think you touched on everything, and I agree with everything you said. And you know, we can go all the way around, but I would like to first touch on Alfred Molina, because after Dafoe dialing it up as the Green Goblin, I think Molina's performance works almost because he dials it back.
Mm-hmm.
And because nobody's going to out over the top Dafoe. Like, you just can't do it. He's very animated fun as the Green Goblin. Molina dials it back. And the whole psychology of this was a guy that had a dream to use science, you know, to advance the world for the better and for the good of mankind. And, you know, he discusses how science and technology and intelligence, they're privileges. And I think, you know, he does a great job in this, dialing it back. And right before his very eyes, everything is taken away from the Doc Ock character. He has this science experiment, the power of the sun in the palm of my hand. That great shot of one goggle has the sun and the other one doesn't. Almost, I always thought the parallel of what's just about to happen. He's on the top of the world, but the darkness is soon to follow. As he loses his wife, he loses his dream. He pretty much loses his identity all in a span of 4 minutes. And I love how he sort of rises and becomes this evil villain mastermind in this movie. I think it's a really, really well done story. And the parallel of Spider-Man trying to finally be with Mary Jane in this movie. She's on Broadway on a play and he can't go to see her because Spider-Man, being Spider-Man, keeps getting in the way. Holding down a job keeps getting in the way. It's getting in the way of his studies. He's brilliant but lazy, as Doc Ock tells him in this movie. I love that, because that's Spider-Man. Spider-Man, it's I have to do 100 different things. I'm trying to please everybody, and at the end of the day, I can't even please myself. It's that struggle, and that's what people, I think, can relate to the character. You know, and it's like, wow, like you see this guy going out of his way. He's such a good guy, but man, like somebody just cut him a piece of slack.
Yeah, exactly.
A little break. I love that. All that stuff in this movie, it's really well done. I think some of the fight sequences, the bank robberies, I watched that.
Oh yeah,
so much. It's such a fun. Put your arms up, all of them. You know, taking out trench coat. Here's your change.
Yeah.
I love that. Like, it's such a fun fight scene between the two, and battling on the top, and throwing Aunt May in there was interesting. I just think that's a tremendous fight scene. And I don't know how you felt about the arms in this. Again, I've heard people say, oh, they didn't like how they did it. I thought it was fucking really good. They almost made them their own entity in this movie, where they clean house in that hospital and murder the entire staff. Like, that's Halloween 2 in 4 minutes. Like, it's just fucking arms destroying an entire hospital staff. And it's like, oh my God, like that scene horrifies me this day. To this day have a hard time watching it, man. It's really well done.
And it's so well filmed. Like the way that the lighting is in that scene and the camera work, like it's just so good look. Like that scene is like, and meanwhile, like Alfred Molina's like unconscious. It's the arms that are doing all of the work. And like, I kind of like that dynamic. No, I really enjoy the fact of the arms and how they're done and how they're designed and the whole separate mindset, and them talking to him and he hears it in his head. He's like, I hear something. It's like a voice in the back of my head. Because a lot of that, from watching the show, at least, I haven't read too many of the comics, but watching the show, that's what happened. He just, was kind of like the arms were kind of there and they were helping him, do these crimes and everything. And I think it was excellent. The design of the arms and the way the effects are, I believe most, maybe not all of it, but most of it was practical, like actual practical arms they use, which is pretty impressive.
And you could tell in No Way Home that it's all CGI. Yeah. And that's why I really looking this back, it's fucking amazing to see the practical arm grab somebody and you're like, oh shit, like that's a real arm. I don't know. It really works. I like what they did. I thought it was interesting that the arms had their own thoughts. And me too. And they have this whole thing. It's the inhibitor chip and that breaks in the thing. So they're in his head a little bit and they're controlling him. Really cool to throw that in there, I thought. Trenchy's here. Trenchy says, that hospital scene is Raimi at his best. I agree that when that woman gets dragged away and her nails get destroyed, I mean, that's just like horror done perfect. I love that scene.
I felt so bad for the guy though that had the three of them looking at him. They just all go in at once. His head probably went splat,
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, that scene is like that is like a slasher movie scene in the hospital. I was like, how did this get something less than an R rating? Like, I was just surprised. Yeah. I don't know. Like, it's a really intense ass scene. But I really like that, and I like Peter Parker's whole arc in this movie of I don't want to be Spider-Man anymore. And I know, they've touched on that in other superhero films, like Superman 2 does that, where he gives up his powers so he could be with Lois. And in essence, they do that here where he doesn't want to be Spider-Man anymore. He goes to the doctor. He has these visits. I have this dream where I'm Spider-Man, but I can't do it anymore.
That's a great scene. I forgot about that's such a great scene, man.
It's such a great scene. And he wants to be with the love of his life, Mary Jane. And James Franco is really turning on him because he believes that, he knows who Spider-Man is after killing his father and all of these things. And I really enjoy his struggle as a character in this film. I think this is the one where Tobe Maguire's particular Spider-Man gets the biggest arc. He doesn't want to be this character anymore and he gives up. And a lot of people are happy about it, but a lot of people are very sad. And there's a fantastic, probably my favorite scene in these three movies. Is towards right before the third act where he goes to Aunt May's house and she's cleaning out all the stuff. And he's like, why didn't you tell me to come help you? And she's like, I didn't need your help, and this other kid's helping her. And she gives this whole speech about how she believes there's a hero in all of us and how we all need heroes to look up to. And sometimes we have to give up the things we want the most, even our dreams. And, she makes him realize in that point that he has to come back and be Spider-Man. And it's just a really tremendous build back up to see this guy that we love and is endearing be torn down in front of us as this movie progresses and then rise back up to face the big bad villain and Doc Ock on the train fight, which is my favorite fight scene probably in any superhero movie. I mean,
I was going to say that's probably up there, if not my favorite sequence. Up there of him casting that whole scene. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I had to.
No, you're fine.
That.
You're fine.
I love that scene.
It's the best. I mean, meet me at the clock at 3:00, and I don't know where he is. You better, or else I'll peel the flesh from her bones. And I love the music. He's back, and they fight, and the train, and all this shit, and like, oh my god, it's such a great fight scene. And Robert mentions this here. I wanted to make sure I didn't forget this because it's one of my favorite scenes in the movie too. While he's not Spider-Man, while he's back to Peter Parker reverted, he goes into this burning building to save this little girl whose life is in danger. He goes in, he saves her as Peter Parker. And to me, it's like a perfect 180 of that wasn't Spider-Man that went in there to save her. That was Peter Parker. We all know that Peter Parker has just a bigger heart. And then the saddest thing, what they just completely just drags him down is you hear one of the firefighters go out, some soul got trapped on the 4th floor and never made it out. And he almost looks at it, he's like, if I was still Spider-Man, I would have saved that person too. And you see, you're like, oh my God, like he's just beating himself up inside. And then that build back up, like I said, there's a hero in all of us where he comes back and just, oh my God, I love it. But what did you think of the entire train scene? I mean, walk me through that because it's fucking great.
It is one of those moments where to me it's jaw dropping because even like as a kid and even to this day when I watch that scene and he's trying to stop the train and Doc Ock gets away and he's trying to start figuring out how to stop this, he tries to use his foot and he gets kind of hurt. You realize he can't do that. Got any other bright ideas? I got a few.
Yeah.
And I love dude the scene where he just casting and he's holding it and it's like ripping. It's just such a well done sequence. And I feel like whether it's Captain America, ironically, whether it's Hulk, whether it's Iron Man, whether it's like even MCU Spider-Man, it had a moment where I thought it was kind of similar where the boat splits in half and he tries to, hold it together. I like that. Or maybe the one part in that movie is when he's like pushing the rubble off. Like, come on, Spider-Man. But in this one, I love it because, he's willing to like basically rip himself to pieces to save these people. And it shows the heart of the character. And plus, it's just such an emotional scene. And he nearly dies. And I like the part where you see the hands all grab the suit and around the logo and they pull him in. He's not too much, older than my kid. And he's, the kid brings up the mask and he puts it on and he tells people like, no, stand up. Cause they're trying to fight Alfred Molina. He's like, no, it's okay. I love it. That is definitely one of the best scenes, if not the best superhero, one of my favorite superhero sequences, if not my favorite.
I agree. To me, it's like the image of all these movies. And that's a big reason why I put it as the thumbnail. It's Tobe Maguire stopping the train from, pretty much crashing and burning in New York City and the determination. And I love the kids, like you said, they say, don't worry, we won't tell anybody because they see him unmasked. And you really, in that moment, you're like, damn, like this guy, he's fighting for all of us right now. And we have his back. I love they always make a fact in these movies to make sure New York has his back. And then the final fight scene, it's not as strong as the one with Goblin in the first, but it's not supposed to be either. It's honestly, it's Doc Ock's arc where, Spider-Man goes to him and, we have to stop it. We have to drown and I can't, it was my dream. And he tells him what Aunt made. Sometimes we have to give up the things we want the most, even our dreams. And Doc Ock believes, he's like, I will not die a monster. I'll drown it. And he turns sort of babyface and drowns this thing. And, Peter swings away with MJ, who finds out he's Spider-Man in this movie. And, you kind of have that set up for the third film. And I always loved the way this movie ended, where she leaves the guy at the altar, of course, JJJ's son, and he swings off into the sunset. And I remember in the theater being like, I cannot wait for a third movie. Like,
yeah, me too.
It's such a good fucking flick, man. It has everything. It has, the conflict of the character overcoming things. The villain, I think, is probably the best villain in any of these movies. I really love Molina because it was the whole, how do you follow the foe? Nobody can up the foe, so he dialed it back and somehow figured it out. I don't know. I love this movie. To me, another classic. I mean, an absolute all-time classic. I love this movie. Another 10 out of 10 for me. I love Spider-Man 2, my favorite of the bunch.
Yeah, I'm with you. 10 out of 10 once again for me too. I know I said 9.5, but screw it. I'll go 10 out of 10. These movies deserve it. It's just like I said, it's got everything the first movie had plus more, and that's great because it's got a lot of story elements that I really loved and action sequences, and the effects to me were a big jump up in this movie compared to the first one. Like a lot of them still look good to this day, So
I
yeah,
agree.
I think it's a great movie for sure.
I agree. I know some people say like if you look closely, the CGI on the train scene hasn't aged the greatest. I don't know. I don't think it's quite
No,
bad. I
yeah,
really don't.
I don't really notice anything with that scene.
I don't either. I don't know.
But with
Some people
Spider-Man
just-
3, I notice it. Like Spider-Man 3, when we get into that one, that's definitely one point. where I'm like,
Absolutely agree. Yeah, no, Spider-Man 3 was where they sort of started fucking up with too much CGI. But I don't know. There's also like some scenes in some of the Tom Holland ones where I'm like, is he even there? Like sometimes it's like they have Spider-Man, the whole Spider-Man is CGI. I'm like, is he really standing there in the suit? Like I'll have the double take. Like there's a scene where he's on stage in one of these movies with Aunt May, and I'm watching. I'm like, I don't think he's really standing there. And go to show he wasn't. He was they did like CGI over him. I was like, what the fuck? He couldn't stand there in the suit. Like weird, but I don't know. That's why like when somebody points it out to me in this, I'm like, bro, I barely notice it. Like I think it still holds up. Let's see, a couple comments. 11 out of 10. I can't argue with that. I think this is the best Spider-Man movie. Spider-Man's not really trying to fight talking this movie. He's trying to save him. And that's, I really like about that. Slasher Fred says, I sure would love to see Hobgoblin in a film. That would be really cool.
Ooh, yeah.
Scorpion's the one I want to see for sure.
Yeah. Scorpion, Kraven the Hunter.
Oh, dude, Kraven, bro, that's the new Spider-Man video game, Spider-Man 2 for PlayStation 5 or whatever. Kraven's going to be one of the main villains. I'm so excited, man.
Nice.
That's and we can go Mateo, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Because I was going to say this for the end, but I think it'd be fun now. Of all three Spider-Man iterations, Tobe Maguire, Garfield, and Holland, if you had the creative reins to make one more movie with any of the three of them, which would you pick, and who would be the villain, and why? Because I was going to say this for the end, but I figured this would be a fun, break question. It's hard.
It's getting intense now. It is hard, but I feel like I would definitely to me, the movie that I'm looking forward to the most right now that I'd love to see is Amazing Spider-Man 3, which is going to surprise people, but you give Andrew that good script and you give him a villain like maybe not, if not Venom, then Scorpion. I feel like if you do it the right way, or just do what they said in the second movie and do the Sinister Six with Scorpion in it and stuff like that. Yeah, like do something like that. I'd be down to see Andrew Garfield come back as Spider-Man. I'm part of that crowd. I think that he deserves another chance. I think we deserve a third one. I think we deserve closure.
I have to. You probably think I'm crazy because Tobe Maguire is easily my favorite. But when I saw No Way Home, Garfield was the one that stole it. He really did. And I sat there in the theater and I went to see Toby. Like, don't get me wrong. I did not go to see Tom Holland. I went to see Toby coming back. I was like, holy shit. I get to be fucking 5 years old again tonight. And Tobe Maguire's in a Spider-Man movie in the theater. And Garfield stole it from me. And like, we'll get into the Garfield movies. I won't lie. I don't know how I feel about them. They probably are the weakest for me, but he's not weak. He's great. And like, I do think with the right director, writer combo, you could get a really good Spider-Man movie with him as Spider-Man. I would kill to see him versus either Kraven the Hunter or Scorpion. I think that would be really fucking cool. Who I would cast as those characters, I have no idea. I would cast myself as the Scorpion. The Scorpion, the fat Scorpion. I'd be the fucking, I don't know, but that would be really cool, man. Mac Grande, that shit would be fucking awesome. This is like my favorite villain. But no, that would be really cool. I'd have to agree. I would say Garfield 2 and Scorpion or Kraven would be my pick for villain. I would love to see the Chameleon in a movie. That would be cool. I don't know if they'd ever do that. That was Spider-Man's first villain, people forget. Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man has already fought Scorpion. Well, it wasn't Mac Gargan. It was a mutant scorpion monster. It's in the Amazing Spider-Man video game. That's true, yes. And it's funny, Scorpion's in almost all the games. He's in this game. He's the first boss. He's in the first Spider-Man movie game. There's a ton of Spider-Man games where he's in, but he's only in Homecoming briefly, but it's before he's, it's before he's Scorpion, I guess. And we never have seen that to this day. What about Vulture for Maguire? That would be cool. They would have had John Malkovich. I believe that was the original plan for Spider-Man 4. But man, I gotta say, I think Michael Keaton is this Vulture. untouchable. I really like. Now I can't see anybody else playing that character. Negan as Craven. Okay, that's a pretty cool one.
Ooh, yeah. Okay,
right. John
I
Steele's
see
a
it.
creative genius. I remember it was tough to beat Craven in the PS3 Spider-Man game. Yeah, no, totally. I really liked Craven in the animated series. I always thought that was a really cool incarnation of Craven. I'm excited to see what they do. Insomniac does with the video game with him. I think that's going to be really cool. But in the meantime, I would say this is the black sheep of all the Spider-Man movies to this day. I don't have this. It's not for a lack of me not liking the film, because I'm probably going to surprise some people with this. But Spider-Man 3 from the year 2007. Nate, raw thoughts, man.
Well, I want to say this to get the problems out of the way real quick. The CGI and special effects don't hold up. They really don't. The writing really is a big problem with the movie. And when people say that a movie is like overstuffed and like there's too much going on and there could have been deleted scenes and stuff, I feel it. And like with this movie, it's a very good example with that. And like also everything with Venom, you could have cut that Venom stuff out. Some of it I like the whole new suit and Tobe Maguire being evil. I love all that. It's just
Bully.
Yeah, Bully Maguire. It just feels like it does feel like it's kind of like pushed in there. Like it sticks out. It really sticks out. But you fix those things, and even with the movie that we have right now, besides those things, I really love Spider-Man 3. I think it's great. I think it's a fantastic movie. It was the first Spider-Man movie that I can like remember seeing the advertisements for and the posters. You're trash, Brock. I'm gonna kick some dirt in your eye. See you, chump.
You want forgiveness? Get religion.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. Bully Maguire, bro. It's fucking...
Tell your editor to check their source next time.
Give me to your editor. I can't, dude. I fucking Bully Maguire to me is the funniest shit. Like I can watch it over and over and fucking laugh every time. I don't know. This shit makes me laugh. But so we see, okay, one word for Spider-Man 3, garbage. 3 was all right. I like Spider-Man 3. It has problems for sure, but it's not the worst Spider-Man movie. Cough, cough, Far From Home. I actually fucking agree with that. Far From Home is my least favorite. I know, fucking shocking. But I didn't mean to cut you off there. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I agree, man. Like Bully Maguire, Toby's evil version of Peter Parker is so fun to watch. It is like, oh man, it's so great. It's awesome.
The emo hair.
Yeah, the eyeliner.
yeah. He looks like the fucking emo Undertaker or something. Like
how he looks in certain scenes, like he looks like that. The camera, mugging the camera and stuff. I'm like, bro, what the fuck is he doing?
Little Gobby Jr. gonna cry. Oh my god, fucking classic.
I protected you in school. Now I'm gonna kick your little ass. Ooh. Stings, doesn't it?
I don't know. I remember when this came out. And I remember I remember this was back elementary school days. We went and saw this opening night. I remember it was a bunch of kids, and we were having a good time in the movies.
Yeah.
We walked out and a lot of people were like, even, kids were like, that was kind of shitty. And I was like, I don't really see it that way. I had a good time with it. Okay. Is it a step down from these movies? Yes. It's not as good as these movies. I will absolutely agree with anyone who says that. This movie's biggest problem is it has too much going on. I blame the producers and the studio for that, because Sam Raimi said, I want to do Sandman versus Spider-Man. That is it. I don't want to do Venom. They pushed him to do Venom because Venom was more popular, especially with the 90s Spider-Man fans in the late 80s. That character they saw the money that character could draw. And as opposed to Sandman, who is not, as popular as a Venom, but they should have just let it be Spider-Man versus Sandman, mano a mano. No Venom stuff. And I think this movie would be just as good as the first two. I really do. They also have a lot of unnecessary stuff with like Gwen Stacy is just thrown in there. very useless. I mean, completely misutilized. I don't think Bryce Dallas Howard is a bad actress, but completely miscast in this movie. Like just do not have that character at all. But the stuff with Sandman, tremendous.
It's great.
I love Thomas Hayden Church, and just like Melina, he dialed it back. He's not over the top. He's very, I don't want to hurt you. I will fucking hurt anyone that it takes though to get my daughter's health. You know, and I really liked his character in this. I thought he does a good job. The stuff with Harry, I guess you had to end it some way. It's all right. But the stuff with Topher Grace and Venom.
Amnesia. He has amnesia. I'm like, bro, why?
They do that just so they can write that off, I think. Like, it's like, okay, we'll put him on the sideline for a little bit. Like, I feel like the studio breathing down his neck whenever you watch this movie. You're like, oh, damn, like, why didn't they just let him fucking do what he wanted to do? You know?
Apparently, this was like one of the most expensive movies at the time. Like, it cost a shit ton of money to make this movie, which is crazy because you look at it and it's like, there are some scenes that I see, like the crane scene, I see it there. That's a great sequence. But like other scenes, I'm like, that ending or the CGI and greens, like it, I just didn't understand like how it cost so much money. I think what it was is that I don't know if they counted it. That there's no way they counted it for Spider-Man 4's budget too, because there's no way that movie came out years later. But I know they spent a crap ton of money on Spider-Man 4 and they never released it. So, I mean, they didn't even start making it, but they spent a lot of money on it. So,
yeah, they canceled that like 4 days before it went into production. The script was written, John Malkovich was on, and they were going to do Spider-Man versus Malkovich. That would have been really fucking cool. But I part of me is happy the Tobe story ended here because I don't know if they would have rebounded too well from this. Like, and it would have been more forced. Like, for example, the whole arc of Tobe in this movie is more, he gets the symbiote, he's doing evil things, and then he realizes at the end that like you have to forgive people that have done horrible things. I love the scene with him and the Sandman, and I'm not asking you to understand or forgive me. I'm just asking you to, you know, realize what I did and I didn't mean to. And he says, you know, he's crying, I've done terrible things too, I forgive you. And they both cry, and I love that scene. I think it's a really good scene, but I don't know, the stuff with Eddie Brock, it feels very thrown in there, as funny as some of it is. That's, I think, the thing why I don't hate this movie is it's entertaining throughout the whole thing. Whether it's a mess or not, I don't watch it and go, oh, I'd rather watch something else. Like Batman and Robin is sort of like that, where it's like,
exactly,
it's not boring, but it's like, geez, like what the fuck? Like it's so crazy and over the top. I don't really turn away from it either. It's not boring bad. To me, it's the worst thing to be boring bad. This is like a lot of shit's being thrown at the fan, and some of it sticks, but some of it doesn't. I don't know. What did you make of the end sequence here? Because I think it's really weak, man. The whole tag team of New Goblin and Spider-Man versus Sandman and Venom. I think it's fucking weak.
It's probably one of the weakest finales to a Spider-Man movie. Just to me. I mean, some things I don't mind, like Sandman turning into a giant creature. Not creature, but just a giant sand giant. Cool. But they did nothing with it. He just turns into it and they kick its ass. And it takes Venom and that thing to even try to do some damage to Toby. I mean, it almost kills him, but it took them both to do that. Whereas I'm like, if it's a giant Sandman, might as well. And that's my problem too, is it feels like Sandman gets his ass kicked in the movie a lot. I mean, he gets a lot of it where he has to run away, or the part where he nearly kills Sandman. Good riddance. You know, it's a good scene, but I'm like, okay, so he's kicking his ass, and by the finale, he's not even really doing that much damage to Spider-Man still. And like, I did not like the Venom look in this movie. I did not like the voice. I did not like the CGI in that finale, the green screen, the whole way that ending happened, then killing Harry off. I was like, really? Like, I didn't get it. Like, you make him good just to kill him off. And it's a really emotional moment. I get why they ended it with the emotion, and I like that. I like it. But to me, I would have liked it better if he lived, because then you could have brought him back in more sequels and have him more involved with the story. Whereas to me, they made it kind of stupid because for all that time, he didn't believe when Spider-Man's like, I didn't kill your father. He tried to kill me. He gets his face burned. And then all of a sudden, the butler comes by and says, yeah, by the way, I know you got half your face blown off, but let me let me tell you what really went down, bud. I'm like, what? You act like you're fired.
You could have said
You're
that
fired.
3 movies ago, motherfucker. It saved us all this time. This
Like
fucking
you
butler
think.
sticking his thumb up his fucking ass. Hey, by the way, buddy, nice Two-Face there. I see you're going for a little Harvey Dent look. Sorry, but your daddy killed himself. Fucking, it's so convenient. It's like they just were like, all right, now here's the baby face. Go.
Yeah.
Fly.
Yeah. And he just kind of accepts it. He doesn't even question it. It's like, okay, the blades are from his glider. Yeah, Spider-Man can't just pick the glider up and stab it into your father still. It's not like that can happen. Oh, no, but that one little old sentence fixes the whole thing, even though half your face got blown off, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That whole, I think that there was potential with Harry in this movie, but it's okay. I liked what they did with it. I liked it. I think it should have been him and Sandman alone. There should have been no Venom. I find more issue with Venom because I don't hate Topher Grace as an actor, but I think it was a big miscast, and I get why, but because they were going for the Ultimate Spider-Man, they wanted sort of a different, like a opposite Peter Parker in a way. And I get it. I understand. I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of the look of Venom. Not a fan of the arts with Venom. Just to me, none of it really worked out for me.
I agree. And I think this is a classic definition of too many cooks in the kitchen movie. Like, but that doesn't mean all the cooks didn't know what they were fucking making. Like, that's my defense for this movie. Like you look at the stuff with Sandman, that cook is making some good shit. You look at the stuff with fucking, Bully Maguire, people make fun of it, but it is entertaining. And to this day is referenced in pop culture. We're 15 years removed from this movie. I can't go a day of my life without somebody sending me a fucking Bully Maguire meme. Like, it's just, it's him dancing and the fucking find us some shade and the eating the cookies over the phone. Like, it's stuck. I know people find it terrible, but I fucking really liked the Bully Maguire stuff. But at the same time, some of the stuff the cooks gave you were shit. I mean, the Venom stuff was bad. Topher Grace was not good not a good choice to be Eddie Brock to me. I get it. At that time, he was trying to do roles like that. He tried the Predators movie, and this was when Topher Grace tried to branch out into the mainstream, and it pretty much fucking failed. I don't hate the guy. I just don't think he was the right person for this role. I just think it's like Venom was very forced into this movie. And to me, if you're going to do Venom, give Venom its own movie. Like don't have Sandman or Goblin in there. If you're going to do Venom, you got to make it about Venom. And Venom is very like a subplot. Like, Venom doesn't show up as Eddie Brock until like 2 hours in. And this is what, a 2 hour, 15-minute movie? Like, it's, I don't know. I think it's very, the Venom stuff.
I agree.
I don't know, but it's funny. Like, even though I find a tremendous amount of problems with it, I've probably seen this the third most out of any of them. Like, I can rewatch this no problem. The humor, the one thing, and I may get some shit from this. So I'm sorry for anybody who's MJ enthusiast. Mary Jane's character in this fucking
oh my god, dude! I forgot.
Fucking bitch.
She's awful, dude.
Peter,
I hate
Peter,
every
why
scene
don't you
with
say you
that.
love me, Peter? I'm in this play. They say they couldn't hear me past the second row. Bitch, then sing fucking louder, you fucking redhead motherfucker. Jesus Christ. What a bitch. Every fucking scene in this movie, she's being a bitch. You're here with her. Yeah, you fucking bitch. Yeah, he is. He's trying to get some fucking blonde poo-tang.
Y'all ain't together no more.
Fuck.
I hate everything involves Peter Parker and MJ's relationship. It is so... Okay, Spider-Man 1 works. Spider-Man 2, really good. By the time you get to this movie, and it's not about you, it's about me, and I'm like, bro, what the fuck? Like, she's completely unlikable in this movie.
Fucking bitch in this. Like, okay, in Spider-Man 2, I get it. She's on a Broadway play, and she expected him to come and support. That I can understand getting upset about. But this movie, it's like he's there in the beginning. He's supporting her. He's in the front row.
Yeah.
they didn't say I was good enough and they fucking miscast me. I was like, bitch, I would have recasted you too. Shut the fuck up. Holy shit. Like, you want to, it's just like, oh my God. Like, I don't know. Her character in this movie is actually unbearably bad. And towards the end where she's like, you know, hugging and embracing, Harry, I'm like, dude, you're a bitch. Like, no offense, but like, you were making an omelet with this motherfucker, dancing to the twist. You're fucking hoe. Come on. I don't know, man. MJ's character, she actually takes this movie down a point. Like, this would be a 7 out of 10 for me. It's a fucking 6 just because this bitch. Like, I
forgot about the omelet scene.
Funniest is Harry goes, oh, I'll never forget the way she tastes strawberries. Like, the dialogue in this movie, I actually fucking love. Like, I absolutely love it. I don't know, man. It has good things. It's just a fucking mess. Like, I can see why somebody would say this is the worst one. I can't defend it. But for me, it works on a lot of levels because there is some good shit there. It's just the stuff that's bad is like dog shit bad. So I get why people hate it. I don't, though. I think it's a perfectly passable movie. It's just, I get why people say this is the black sheep, but I don't personally.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of things that there's a lot of positives to it. Action scenes are still fun. That's, to me, not boring. It's entertaining. It's got some decent acting still from Tobe Maguire. The moment where he's tearing the suit off, I think is great. There's still a lot of good scenes in there. There's still a lot of great things. It's just that I think when you follow up Spider-Man 2 with this, it's like you got to follow that up. And if you're following that up, you got to... Like, to me, if you would have fixed some of the effects and, like I said, tweaked around the story, it could have been one of the best sequels. But, and you do Venom better, I feel like it'd be excellent. But, it is what it is. I don't hate it. I think it has some problems, but definitely not people have said the worst comic book movie ever made. I'm sorry. I've seen way worse than this. Way worse than this.
Fucking somebody, whoever said that, watch Elektra. Watch fucking Batman and Robin. Fucking no fucking way.
Did you say Elektra?
Let's go watch Elektra, you fucking idiots. No. But here's a question. If it was up to you, would you have, if you could go back in time and change this, would you have done Venom straight up or Sandman straight up? It was in your, because it seemed like Raimi wanted Sandman straight up, producers wanted Venom straight up, and they just, in order to fucking appease both of themselves, they just came together, and that's why you get the mess. I don't know. What do you think, though?
Well, if Sam Raimi wanted to do Sandman, I'll let him do Sandman this movie, and in the sequel, I'd be like, all right, well, I'll let you do Sandman here, but in the sequel, let's work on doing a Venom movie. So I feel like eventually Sam was going to run into that anyways, because Venom's a big part of the story, so you're going to have to put Venom in there somewhere. So if I had to choose for part 3, Sandman, only because I feel like Sam really wanted to do that, and that's what his heart was. He wanted to make a Sandman and Spider-Man movie, but I would tell him, like, okay, in the 4th one, we're going to do Venom, and then after that, Vulture type of thing.
Yeah, it seemed like he was more interested in doing the smaller scale villains. Like people, like, Green Goblin is not really the Joker of Spider-Man's villainography. He's not. Like, I would say Venom is probably a more popular comic character, but they let off with Goblin. And then to go to Doc Ock, who's probably the most popular, but then Sandman, Vulture, these are like not the ones that I think a big studio would pick. And I appreciate Sam Raimi trying to tackle those smaller stories. And I think he did a really good job. I think he did Sandman, Doc Ock, and Green Goblin perfect. It's just a shame because Venom I don't think it was his fault. I don't think his heart was in that character. I really don't. And I think that
it was really he was forced to put it in there. He just, he was like, all right, I guess I'll put it in there kind of thing.
And that shows. And like, I don't know, I can respect it because I love the first 2, and the stuff that Raimi heart was in here was really good. So I don't know, that is what it is. Mateo asks us, John and Horrorboy, what do you think of the casting of Franco as Harry? I like it personally. What do you think?
As Franco casted as Harry, I think he's a good choice. I know he was up for Peter Parker, I think, in the first one, but I think he's a good choice as Harry.
I agree. I like him. I think he did a good job. Granted, now he's sort of like one of those, he's got erased pretty much. But I think James Franco does an excellent job in all of these movies. I really do. I like him. Would have been the Lizard if they made a fourth. They actually were going to do Vulture. It was John Malkovich was going to be the Vulture in the fourth movie. Let's see. What they could have done is had the black suit in this movie, but not Venom until the next one. That would have been okay.
Yeah, maybe. Good point. Yeah, I think that would work too.
I think, yeah, this is a classic case of the studio was like, we don't want to let you go. You did such a good job. We want Venom, though. And he was like, fuck you, I'm doing Sandman. And they said, okay, let's come to an agreement. We'll put it all together. And it really crashed and burned. Miss C is in the house. Miss C, what's going on? I don't think Sam really liked Venom because he did say he didn't want to do Venom because he doesn't know much about him. Yeah, and like, I admire that. If you don't know a character, don't do it. Like, what? Why? But I get where the studio was. They were thinking money, But follow your heart, man. Follow it. If I just saw Spider-Man 1 and 2 and Sam Raimi, I'm like, yo, Sam Raimi, you have my utmost trust. Take my money and go make another fucking banger. And I think he would have if they didn't meddle into the business. But it is what it is. Franco was fun. I agree. Dope Vulture. Yeah, no, totally. I didn't like Franco pronounce the butler's name. Oh no, I don't even remember. What was the butler's name? I don't even remember. Mary Jane was an asshole.
I don't know.
She was an asshole in part 3. The first 2, she's fine, especially the first one. I think she's the best in that one. But I do like what they did with the next Spider-Man love interest as we move away from this trilogy. The Sam Raimi trilogy came and went, of course, 5 years later in the year 2012, 10 years anniversary of this movie. Pretty crazy. 20 year, 15 year, 10 year. It's crazy. All these movies having their anniversaries. Yeah. This, I don't have anything to hold up here, but this is Marc Webb's The Amazing Spider-Man, starring Andrew Garfield as the titular character. Raw thoughts on this one, Nate. What do you think of The Amazing Spider-Man from 2012? I know you said that you have some unpopular opinions, so I'm interested to hear them. Uh-oh. Did we lose Nate?
My mic disconnected again. Hold on.
Oh, you're good. Take your time. I'll go through comments. Bernard was the butler's name. Okay. Avi Arad wasn't a thing about how it would make the movie good. He was thinking how many Venom toys he could sell. That happens. Let's see. Man-Wolf. Oh, see, I would exactly. Like, there's some people that would come up with like lower tier villains that would be really good. I like Scorpion. I feel like would be perfect to do. I like if I was making a Spider-Man movie, this would be my Spider-Man movie. I would really love to tackle this character. I think it would be so much fun. But I don't know, maybe one day. Craven would be another one. I think now, though, their biggest issue is it's a lot of them, these superhero movies, they have more than one villain. Like they're just trying to amp it up. One villain, one hero. That's it. I don't know. I'm old school like that. I don't want 4 heroes and 10 villains. I don't know. That's just me. I really like The Amazing Spider-Man, Your Hair. More my thoughts when I do the watch along with it. Oh, cool. Are you back, Nate?
Yeah, I got it back on.
Okay. I was making sure. Corey's in the house too. What's going on, Corey? But yeah, initial thoughts for you on Andrew Garfield's first performance as the character.
Like I said, a really unpopular opinion, but I really enjoy it. Now, back when I first saw it, I hated it. I was along with everybody else. I'm like, I hate the suit. I'm not even a fan of Andrew Garfield. I'm not a fan of what they did. I hate the way it looked. I hated everything about this movie, and I might have done a rant on it way back in the day. Don't know. It might have been a crazy-ass rant because I was nuts back then when I was doing rants. But after rewatching it, I did not rewatch it for a long time, like years. I was like, I never even watched the second one. So I was just like, man, whatever.
Wow.
Yeah, and I went back and I rewatched it, and I really loved the first one. And I feel like it gets a lot of... I understand the criticism of the film. Is it perfect? No. Is it... I would put it on that Spider-Man 3 level where it's got flaws, but I really, really enjoy it. I love the suit, the costume. I like it because it looks a lot more homemade, and the web shears look a lot more homemade. And I really enjoy the differentness of it, like just how different it was. I don't even know if differentness is a word, but We're making a word for this. No, but I like that. I like how it's just unique. The golden eyes. I know people said it looks like a basketball at the head, but okay, I'll give you that. It does look like a basketball, but I like it. It's unique. It's different, and I liked Andrew Garfield's portrayal. And the one thing I want to point on is it really puts on the pressure of Spider-Man, because this is a kid in high school, and there's scenes where he can't tell people what's going on. He's even like, I can't tell you. I want to tell you so bad, but I can't tell you. I can't be with you. I can't, he really sold that stuff. The depression, the anger of losing his uncle and losing people around him and not knowing where his parents are and not really knowing what's going on, why he has these powers all of a sudden. And I enjoyed all that. It's a dark movie. I enjoy the darkness of it. I enjoy the way it's shot, the score. I really like the score. I enjoy a lot of the action scenes. While I feel like there could be more in there, I enjoy what there is. There is one part in the movie that kind of had the whole New York helping out Spider-Man. It's where they all use the cranes to line up and he uses it to swing across, which I really enjoyed that. The POV of him swinging on the webs, I really enjoyed. Overall, it's underrated. I think it's underrated. I think it's a film that it's luckily gotten a pretty good cult following, which I'm glad for. I think if you separate it from Sam Raimi and you separate it from Tom Holland and you visit these movies on their own, it really does it, to me at least, it helped me look at it and go, okay, I enjoy them. Are they flawed? Yes. The writing, the lizard's kind of boring in this movie. The movie is slow. It is slow. It is a bad, as far as pacing goes, it is slow. People appear and disappear often in the movie. Plots disappear and appear in the movie often. And while I feel like there are a lot of problems there, and some of the CG is pretty bad, like to me, it's CG, like it shows. But overall, I quite enjoy it. I would say I put it on Spider-Man 3's level. As I quite enjoy the movie. It's like one of my favorite maybe even a little bit above Spider-Man 3, which is crazy, I know, but it's one of my more favorite Spider-Man movies for sure.
I don't think that's crazy at all. I think a lot of people probably agree with what you just said, and I agree with some of it. This one for me, okay, so this was removing itself from the Tobe and Raimi world. And like for me being such a diehard fan, I appreciate some of the differences they made. Like they initially, the big thing they wanted to do was let's make Spider-Man more of a jokester, because that's more how the character was, especially like if you played games like this, like he's very much more joking and hey, chuckles, like very much more fun. Garfield does a good job. And it's funny because I haven't revisited this movie since I saw it in theaters 10 years ago, but before this show. Like this was the reason I went. Isn't that crazy? 10 years it's been since I've seen this movie. And I was like, damn, like I don't fucking remember this at all. Like it's basically watching for the first time. The origin, it's okay. I don't think it's as good as it is in the Raimi movies. And part of me wonders, did you really even need to do the origin here?
No, it drags out. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was gonna say it drags out. It does. It's not as good.
It's not, and it's like that's one thing I appreciate about Homecoming is they just no, we're not doing the origin again. It's just he's Spider-Man. Like I would have appreciated that, but I think their whole idea was we're rebooting this, so it's got to be told again. They also do this thing with the parents. Like they keep insinuating that Peter's parents were up to something. And that's how Kurt Connors gets involved as the Lizard. Worst villain in any of these movies by a country mile. I did not like Rhys Ifans as the Lizard at all. I didn't care for the design. Like the nose, instead of a snout, it's like pushed in.
I hate it. I really don't like that look. And I'm a big fan of the Lizard. So I was like, really? You dropped the ball? And then, like, they don't even care because in No Way Home, he just sit in the van for half the movie. Like, they don't even care. They forget about the Lizard.
Yo, the lizard just there just so they have somebody to fight in the third act and no one knows. Like, it's the weakest of any Spider-Man. Like, even the actor that really doesn't do a good job. Like, I liked Dylan Baker in the as Kurt Connors as the teacher in the Raimi movies. I was like, oh man, he did a good job. I would have liked to have seen what he would have done with being the Lizard. We never saw that. And here, a little bit boring, but okay, for the things that I don't think this movie does right, there are a lot I do think it does do right. Gwen Stacy is the love interest. Emma Stone, the best thing in either one of these movies to me. She got it. She was so perfect. Girl next door. That's Gwen Stacy come to life. I mean, perfect casting. Way more likable than Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane or Zendaya as MJ and the Tom Holland ones. I think the love interest wise, these two movies got it perfect. I love the chemistry between her and Garfield. It gets even better in the next movie. I really like that. The fight sequences are okay. I enjoy the, making the organic web suiters and the organic suit and, shooting down all these people that call bullshit on the Raimi movies. Like, okay, he's going to make his suit out of something less expensive, obviously, because he's poor. It does some things right. I liked Dennis Leary's character playing Gwen Stacy's father. I thought that was kind of fun to throw that in there, and he finds out and don't endanger my daughter. It has its moments, especially upon rewatch. It definitely had its moments. I just think it's like sort of like a fart in the wind. Like that's really what I think about with this movie. It kind of comes and goes. Like it didn't catch on, I don't think, like they were hoping for. And probably my biggest problem with this, and I actually would like to talk with you about this, the director. Very odd choice for me.
Marc Webb.
Now, the perfect last name to direct a Spider-Man film. Webb, I mean, shit. The only thing he had really directed of note before this was a movie called 500 Days of Summer or something like that. Okay, but you're picking him to make an action superhero movie? Yeah. What? I don't know. I just thought that was an odd choice. For me, coming off Sam Raimi, that's the biggest step down this movie has. It's the director. I don't see that much. 10 years have gone by since I watched it. I don't see that much style in here. I don't see a guy that really should be making superhero movies. Maybe that was my big disconnect because the performances are fine. Aside from the guy playing the Lizard. The pacing is fine. It's just the direction sometimes I'm like, it's a little bit bleak at times. It's not as energetic as the Raimi movies for me. I don't know, man. This one's a very mixed bag for me. The score I'm sort of up in the air with. The Lizard's motivation. What did you think of that? Because I thought that was fucking odd. Like, I don't know.
It was random. It didn't make a lot of sense. And I get it. Maybe once before he was talking about in some of the comics, like, oh, turn people into lizards. Here, though, it came out of nowhere. It's like they had to figure out, okay, the lizard's the main villain. We got to make it serious somehow. He's going to turn everybody into lizards. And then they have Gwen Stacy make a cure in 5 minutes. And I'm like, what the fuck? Just to give her something to do. And I'm like, she goes in there, all right, here you go. I'm like, 5 minutes typing on a keyboard, you got a cure? Like, what? Like, I didn't get that. The whole lizard villain, honestly, is probably the weakest villain from Spider-Man to me. Probably, yeah, probably at least as far as films go, probably my least favorite villain in the movies. One of my favorite villains of Spider-Man, but just not done very well in this movie. And the ending is just an example of that. Yeah.
It's to me, the whole idea of that character, if you're tackling the Lizard, okay, to me, the comic story was perfect. He was upset about his arm. He felt like a freak. He wanted to just be normal because of obviously the Lizard had a small arm. If he injected, it would grow and he could be normal. Talk about that. Talk about the humanity of trying to want to be normal and have a wife and children and being a normal person just like everybody else. But at night he becomes this monster, that play with that to me, making like you said, like a perilous plot of I want to turn everybody into lizards. That's not that character. Kirk Connors, really? Like, don't you think he would come up with something better than that? A fucking like a genius actor, character, whatever. I don't know. I really think they made a big mistake with tackling this character. I like the character. I just think in this movie it's done so poorly. But it does have some fun shit in it. Like I like the stuff with Flash Thompson and the basketball and try to get it, try to get it. And he dunks the basketball from like half court and breaks it. Nobody questions the fucking thing.
Yeah, that's another problem is that he takes that's okay. I will say this: he reveals his identity and takes the mask off way too much in these movies. Like, there's points where I'm like, how does the whole world not know it's Spider-Man? Like that Peter Parker Spider-Man, you know?
Sure. I here's a question for you too, and I felt this way when these movies came out. And looking back now, though, since No Way Home, I changed my mind a little bit, but I'm curious to hear what you think. At the time of these movies coming out, I felt Andrew Garfield was too cool to be this cat. Like, to me, like, that's why I like Tobe Maguire, because he was a loser. Like the Opie Taylor, sure, you know, like the perfect Andrew Garfield. I feel like he's fucking cool. Like, there's not much nerd there to me. He's more like emo-ish in this movie. What did you think, though?
For a while I thought the same thing, but for me, I've grown to really enjoy that performance, and I like it. I mean, I see what he was going for, more of the against the rules teenager, the guy who's not really like a nerd, but he's not going to be one of the more popular kids. He's like slacking off in school. He's riding the skateboard around. He's sleeping during class. He's, you know, he can't quite talk to Gwen without stumbling over his words, but he's trying to talk to her. You know, he doesn't have the best probably self-esteem, but he's not totally. I appreciated it because I feel like we've already kind of seen that performance done with Toby. So I don't know. I've just kind of grown to appreciate the performance, and I think it's okay. I mean, it's not as good as the Peter Parker from the Sam Raimi trilogy, but I enjoyed it. It was a teen in high school. I especially liked the anger he brought, because it was showing a darker side to Spider-Man that we didn't get to see a whole lot of. I would even say not even in Spider-Man 3, like a real dark side to the character where he's
not a funny dark side. Yes.
Yeah. Where he's ready to like kill people. He's out to get revenge and stuff. But it's that realizing of when he saves, to me, it's that moment where he saves the kid in the car off the bridge. He says, "Hey, put the mask on. It'll give you, give you strength to keep you strong." And he saves the kid, and he realizes that saving people makes an impact. That's to me where it's like he realizes it's not about, kind of like the new Batman movie. It's not about revenge. It's about becoming a symbol of hope and becoming a symbol of being a hero. What it's about. I think that's when it really does. He kicks in to become the Spider-Man that we all know and love. And then the second movie is when it kicks in. He's Spider-Man throughout the whole movie. He's not having that. But in this one, I enjoyed that. It was different. The whole trying to be intimidating, trying to be funny, make little quips here and there, but trying to be intimidating too. Like, you know.
And he does that good. Garfield as Spider-Man is really good. I like him. I remember when it happened, when he casted him, I was like, he's too cool. Like the nerdy side. But exactly, like, yeah, we want to see a little bit cooler version, because Tobe Maguire, you know, with the one-liners, I didn't mind him. But here, I think it was like, okay, like he's trying to be much more like funny. And I enjoy
the quippy Spider-Man.
Yeah, I like Garfield as the character. I don't know. This movie, I might surprise you. I probably like the second one slightly better, and I don't know if anyone's going to agree with that.
That's awesome. I love the second one, so I'm glad I found somebody out there who doesn't hate the second movie and think it's like one of the worst movies of all time, you know?
I don't know if I hate any of these. Like, I have problems with some of them, but I don't know. Like, even this movie, I have a lot of problems with it, but it's not like bad. I think my main issue, and this is something just personal, I mean, 10 years. It's been 10 years since I even wanted to watch this. So it's like, it did something wrong, but I don't know what. I couldn't put my finger on it. Maybe it's just the fact it's like, all right, the villain was boring as toast in this. Like, maybe that's why. I don't know.
The movie's very gray. It's a very gray movie.
It's
very
passable, though. Dull. It's not bad. It's just, I don't know. I guess if I'm reaching for a Spider-Man movie, I would reach for any of the Raimi 3 over this. And maybe even
absolutely.
Holland ones. Although I probably like this more than Far From Home. If you were to rate this one, what would you give it at 10?
I give it a 7.5. I think it's got a lot of good aspects to it. I think the problems really hinder it. And like I said, if I were to rank it, put it probably slightly above Spider-Man 3, but slightly, just slightly. But yeah, 7.5. Give
That's
it a solid
cool.
7.5.
Trenchy says, I agree about Lizard. Lizard in the cartoon wanted to turn people into lizards. I just think they didn't focus on Connors enough, and they didn't really make him tragic enough. Yeah, no, there's no tragic.
Mm-mm.
He said I don't know. They should have definitely shown Connor's family and show that he doesn't want to be the That's what I would have done with it. To me, it would have made the character so much more relatable for the audience. And like, I think the villain performance would have been much better, but I don't know. That's just me. Yeah, that scene with the kid and the scene with the crane. Yeah, it has its moments. This movie does have its moments. And I will say, I prefer this tone over the Jon Watts tone when we get into the Tom Holland movies, where I appreciate this humor over the humor in those movies. Like, I think he got like Jon Watts, when we get into those movies, they're like John Hughes movies with Spider-Man. And to me, those movies have heart, but I don't know if they work as good as this particular duology works, but the Garfield and Webb. I think that's the one thing they got right was tone. I just think it's with the storytelling and some of the direction. That's where I lose these movies, but definitely some positives. Lizard was such a classic villain in the comics and on the animated series. In this movie, they dropped the ball with him. I agree. I wasn't a fan of the design either. They scrapped his, and the purple shorts. I love the Lizard, man. I feel like big ball drop on this one. At least the deleted scene of the Lizard cornering and sticking his tongue out to preteen. Oh, I didn't even see that. I'm good. That's a good thing. I would probably give this one the same score I gave Spider-Man 3, probably a 6 out of 10. A movie that I haven't gone back and watched until we did the show, but one that, it has its positives, but I do have problems with.
Did I rate Spider-Man 3?
I don't remember. I gave it a 6. What did you give it?
Probably an 8.
Oh,
well,
okay.
No, 7, because I like this a little better. So I probably put 7 than this 7.5.
Okay. Opinions on Dennis Leary. I love the actor. He does a good job in this. I especially love him in Dead Militia Man. What'd you think of Dennis Leary, though?
Dennis Leary, I thought he was a good part to this movie. I don't know why they brought him back in the sequel, because he was
as the Obi-Wan ghost.
Yeah, that was a little out there. But in this movie, I liked him. He's kind of this person that I love the dinner scene where he's like, no, this is a criminal. He's like, no, I don't think he's a criminal at all. I think he's trying to do something that the police can't do. He's like, what can the police not do? And I love that whole scene. And I like the speech at the end of kind of a speech. I just like what he says to Peter at the end of the movie. Don't talk to Gwen. And in a way, Peter ignoring that in the sequel is what leads to the fate of the character in that. And I feel like in this movie, he had a good point of telling Peter tried to stay away, but of course she couldn't stay away because he loved her. And even in the second movie, she says, I'm in charge of my own life. You can't like control her. It's her life. She'll do whatever she wants, and he can't ultimately stop what she's doing. So it's a good part of the story. And I liked him in this movie. He was pretty good. I liked him.
I agree with all that. I do. And I think you're right. It's one thing they set up in this film that they really executed well in the following film, I think. But I guess that's a perfect transition to our next movie here from the year 2014, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. A lot of people would also tell you this might be the black sheep of all of these movies, this or Spider-Man 3. I actually really like this better than the first one. And I know a lot of people probably like, all right, you're an idiot, whatever. It's funny because this movie has a lot of problems too. To me, this one has Spider-Man 3 syndrome because there's so much stuff in it. There was apparently they were going to have Mary Jane in this too when they cut all the scenes. There's Electro. There's the new Goblin, which didn't work.
Black
there's
Cat.
A lot of stuff. There's Rhino. There's so much shit in this movie. But again, for some reason, I found this one a lot more rewatchable over the years, maybe because I like Jamie Foxx a lot as the villain. I think Jamie Foxx does a good job. Of course, a lot of people bash it. Oh, they're trying to do Edward Nygma. I like Edward Nygma, the Jim Carrey Edward Nygma, Batman Forever. I like the whole nerdy lab coat, then have this thing happen to you. Did he have to be fucking blue? No. I think that was a bunch of bullshit. Yeah. But I really like the stuff with the kid and standing up to Rhino and stuff. And I think this movie has a lot of good in it too. Probably a little bit more watchable for me. What do you think though, about this one?
Yeah, I mean, I sat down to watch it, and I'll be honest, I was not excited to see it, even though I loved the first. Well, I enjoyed the first Amazing Spider-Man. Rewatching it, I wasn't particularly excited to see this one because I had seen clips, and the clips I seen I didn't like, and I was surprised. I was very surprised. It's probably one of my favorite Spider-Man movies, and it's got probably my favorite costume of all the Spider-Man. I really like the costume in this movie. I like the way the eyes look. I like how it looks. Tobe Maguire ones are classic. Don't get me wrong, but this is just probably the one that I like the most, the costume wise. But it surprised me. It's a lot of fun. If people can love No Way Home, I don't understand why you wouldn't like this movie, because there are things in this movie that people say, oh, well, it's not funny. No Way Home had that issue with it wasn't really that funny. Oh, there's too many characters. Well, there's a lot of characters in No Way Home. Well, there's a lot going on in the plot. Well, there's a lot going on in that plot of No Way Home, too. So I'm like, if you hate this movie, because this is considered even worse sometimes than Spider-Man 3, which to me, I put it on the same level of Spider-Man 3. Don't like it as much as The Amazing Spider-Man. Don't like it as much as the first two Spider-Man movies, but I think it's really enjoyable. It's a very fun time. It's got a much more brighter tone to it. It's more well-directed to me. It's got a better, more interesting look to it. The dubstep score, personally, I like that.
I love it.
It matches. It's perfect. It's electro, so have electronic music. Why not? You know, and I thought the cast was pretty good. I liked, of course, I thought Andrew Garfield did a great job. I also thought it's the guy from Chronicle. He did a decent job as Harry. It was just the whole
Dane DeHaan.
Yeah, I didn't mind him as Harry. I mean, I probably would prefer James Franco as Harry, but I didn't mind him as Harry. It's the Green Goblin stuff, which we'll get into that in a second. But like, you know, Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield, I think they stole the show in this movie. I think their back and forth between their characters was excellent. Dare I say it's better than Tobe Maguire and how do I forget her name?
Kirsten Dunst.
Kirsten Dunst. Yeah, sorry.
I would say it's way better than that too.
Yeah, especially in Spider-Man 3. Like, I think it beats Spider-Man 3's relationship stuff way better. Like, I think it's got a good cast. Jamie Foxx's Electro is a good choice. And to me, it's not boring. It's interesting. I love the Times Square sequence. That's an excellent scene. Like, well done. The ending fight between Spider-Man and Electro, I kind of dug and I got into it. Thought it was pretty cool. Yeah, it's not bad. I really enjoy it. It's definitely not terrible. If I had any issues, once again, it's the Rhino is probably the worst version of the Rhino I've seen. I thought it was just really annoying. It's funny, they got Paul Giamatti to play the Rhino, and he's a good actor. And they make him over the top, and it's so bad. I hated it. I hate the whole suit. That's not Rhino to me. I don't think of that Rhino. I think of Rhino, a man in a suit, thinking he's actually a Rhino. Like, that's fun. It's a fun character. But to have the whole machine part, the machine Rhino shooting the rockets, I thought it was a little too Transformers for me. It looks like something out of a Michael Bay movie. Also, I didn't like how Electro just got beat like that, and then Harry comes in as the Green Goblin, and then after that, pretty much Green Goblin said, "Oh, nope, you ain't the main villain anymore. I'm the main villain." At the very end, I'm like, I don't care about that Green Goblin. I want to see more of Electro. It's like, well, he got beat. Sorry. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck about Green Goblin. Why the fuck am I looking at this awful looking Green Goblin? I hate that design. It is so ass. It's like they're like, well, we don't want to go too much to the comics, but we kind of want to be like the 2002 movie. No, it looks fucking awful. I think it looks like ass in this movie. The whole Green Goblin storyline was awful. That was the worst part of the movie, was that storyline. But other than that, you know, it does have other problems. Them seeing Gwen Stacy's father appear out of nowhere and warning Peter, hey, remember what I said? Ooh.
Use the Force.
I'm like, what the fuck? Like, is he going crazy? Like, did they explain it? Is it a ghost? Like, what the fuck's going on? You know, like, but yeah. I also love, real quick, I love the little thing they do where Electro breaks the web shooters. That was pretty cool because he has only one web shooter. How am I going to fight him? You know, I like that part of the story too. But yeah, I think it has a lot more with Peter. I think Andrew Garfield's performance is even better than this movie. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm sorry I talked so much about it. I really enjoyed it.
Dude, no, you're mirroring almost all of my thoughts in the movie, though, so I'm happy. Like, I agree. You're so right. It's brighter. It is better directed. Garfield's even better as the character. Like, it's a very much more a movie where I would have preferred the first movie to go, like a little bit lighter, a little bit, just a little bit more energy. This movie brings it. It does have the same issue as Spider-Man 3. There are too many cooks in the kitchen. I mean, there was MJ subplot that was completely deleted that they did film for this movie. There is the Green Goblin stuff, which is very poor. Even though it's not acted poorly, the design, you don't care about it. Again, it should have just been Spider-Man versus Electro. Maybe save the Gwen Stacy death for the next movie or something. Like, it's too much. The stuff with the parents that they keep dwelling on, you're just like, I don't give a fuck about what you're insinuating. There's apparently a deleted scene where it's like he meets his father, like Ben Parker faked his death. What? You faked your fucking death? What the fuck? Like, and that scene is terrible. He's like crying. He's like, Dad, you fucking faked your death. And he's like, I'm sorry, son. I'm like, what? Like, no wonder they cut that out. Like, what? But it does have some good things. I like the score a lot. I love
the score. Great score.
That in Times Square, I've been to that area of Times Square a ton of times. To me, it was so cool to see that used in a film. It's in the PS4 Spider-Man game, that red steps. And I like he's trying to grab them for not grabbing the rail to get electrocuted. That was awesome. I was like, damn, like, if Jamie Foxx wasn't fucking blue, maybe this would be more realized as like a great villain portrayal. I think it's one of those where because he's blue, people are like, oh, well, that's fucking stupid. I agree. But when you see him in No Way Home, he's great as Electro. He really, what a great casting choice for Max Dillon Electro. I love the Electro character. What a great decision. I liked the whole mentality that he was a good guy on paper. He just was one that he kept getting dealt shitty hands, and eventually it broke him down. And I like he's confused at first. He's like, wait a minute, Spider-Man saved me, like, let me be cool. And then he thinks, oh my God, he gets tricked into thinking Spider-Man's bad. And then the fight's on. Really good stuff. The Gwen Stacy death, it is very emotional. It's very well acted by Andrew Garfield. Emma Stone and him, their chemistry in this is top notch. Best chemistry between any Spider-Man and female lead in any of these movies is in this movie. It does have its positives. It's just, again, it's like Spider-Man 3. The negatives are so garbage where you're like, that's why people consider this to be an overall bad movie. I don't know though. I really dig it. What do you think?
Electro's gap in his teeth or something like that. When he gets electrocuted, it fixes the gap in his teeth. I was like, what? Why?
You guys don't need dentists. You need to fucking just get electrocuted by a bunch of eels, and you'll fucking your teeth will be perfect. I don't know. I enjoy this movie too. I'll be honest, I watched them back to back about 5-6 days ago, and I preferred this one. I was like, I definitely got more enjoyment out of this one. Granted, I could see why they didn't do a 3, because there is just so much trying to set up like a Sinister 6 towards the end of this. I don't know how that would have turned out with this director, these writers. I don't know. Andrew Garfield, I have all the faith in the world in, but Gwen Stacy to me needed to be there. I don't know how good the next movie would have been without her, because granted, we never got to see Shailene Woodley as MJ and interact with Garfield. Maybe they would have pulled it off. But I think without Emma Stone, the next movie would have been garbage. I really do. I think her character is a big reason why I like the Amazing Spider-Man duology. I think it's the best love interest in any of these movies. It was done really well. I would have liked to have seen a third Andrew Garfield movie, but I see why we didn't get one. This movie is a mess in a lot of ways, but it does have a nice heart. I like the ending with, the kid standing up to Rhino and the mother, oh, get my kid. And Garfield decides to come back and fight and save the day. And I thought that was a nice ending. I don't know. I don't hate this movie. I would say it's a bump up from The Amazing Spider-Man 1. I'm going to go 6.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I think it's excellent. It's fun. It's got a better pacing to me. It's faster paced. It's got a better atmosphere to it. Um, I would, like I said, I kind of put it with Spider-Man 3, so I'm gonna probably just give it a 7. But yeah, I mean, Amazing Spider-Man 2 surprised the hell out of me. I was not looking forward to it at all. I was sitting like, oh god, I'm gonna watch this. Like, but then I sat down and watched it, and I was like, this is pretty good. I really liked it. It's pretty good.
I'd have to second that. I think what it was is it had the taste in my mouth from the first Amazing Spider-Man really makes me go into this going, but it's a step up. It's a much more realized version. It's just, again, so many cooks in the kitchen. I think people, they just bash it because of that. I understand why people don't like this movie. Same with Spider-Man 3. Times Square was too mainstream for the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. See, I actually kind of like that. I think that's the best sequence of the movie. Maybe because I've been there in Times Square so often where it was like, whoa, like Spider-Man fighting a villain there. Like I've stood on those steps. Like, I don't know, maybe that's just my mentality. I'm upset we didn't get to see Rhino fight at the end. I guess so. Yeah. Granted, I think that was a good ways to cut it. Like, he's back. He's always going to kick his ass. Like, I mean, yeah, it would have been nice to see the fight. None of these popcorn flicks hold the candle to the Oscar-nominated Morbius. Mark's in the house. Dude, I still haven't seen it. I have no interest. Yep, and that scene with his dad is the one to say, with great power comes great responsibility to uncle. But that's garbage. That's just garbage. I wonder if they'll ever revisit the Rhino idea. Maybe, definitely maybe. I would hope they would do it different. I don't know if Rhino could be the main villain of a Spider-Man movie, though. Like, because there's not much there to that character. Same with Shocker. Like, I don't know if you could do Shocker as a lead villain. Those are two, like, side villains to me. Ills Nature's natural dentist. Eels. I got you. The script for the third movie, if it was made, was trippy as fuck. I have not read that. Have you?
No. I heard about it, but no, I'm not familiar with the script they had.
I know they were going to do Sinister Six, but I'm glad they didn't. I don't know. I don't know. 4 out of 10. Okay, so that's a really low rating for this one. Rhino is a henchman, but yeah, he is. I agree with that wholeheartedly. But that is the Andrew Garfield duology, which brings us now to the Jon Watts Tom Holland Trilogy. And this one in the year 2017, I think, kicked off with this little movie right here. This is Spider-Man Homecoming. Before you get into it right off the bat, I've got to say, of all the ones that are not the Raimi ones, this is probably my favorite Spider-Man movie since the Raimi ones for me. I've really grown to really like this one. But your initial thoughts?
Well, I was really excited because I remember I was watching Civil War, and there's that part where he meets Peter Parker, and we're getting a new Spider-Man, and Spider-Man shows up. Hey, Cap. How's it going, Cap? How you doing?
You got the shirt on, too.
I was really excited to see him play Spider-Man. And Tom Holland, to me, nails being a young Spider-Man. And I do enjoy his performance. I do. There are parts that I have issues with, but I think overall he's a pretty good Spider-Man. And, with the announcement of this first movie, I was hyped. I seen it. And I remember at first I didn't mind it. It was kind of one of those movies where I was like, it was pretty good. Didn't really think it was great, but I enjoyed it. But after revisiting this, because I revisited all the Spider-Man movies, I binged them all. And it really bumped it up for me. I think it's a fun movie. I think it really focuses more on the fact that he's in high school doing all his high school drama, Homecoming's coming up, and he's got Michael Keaton being the Vulture, breathing down his neck. He's got this girl he really likes. He's talking to her. It's kind of weird because he talks to MJ for the rest of the series. Like, you never see this girl ever come back. She's just gone, and she's kind of, I just don't get it. Like, it was kind of like wasted. Like, okay, she's Vulture's daughter. That's it. That's all we got from her character. But the humor, I thought, worked a lot better in this than it did in the sequels. I feel like a lot of the jokes were nailed a lot better in this. It's once again got a pretty good pacing to it. It really, I don't have any issue with it other than the fact that it doesn't feel like a Spider-Man movie at points. There's times where I'm not a fan of them bringing in other like Avengers and stuff like that into solo superhero movies. Like Captain America Civil War should have been called Avengers Civil War because there was every single Avenger was in that movie. And here, Iron Man, I feel like shows up way too much to save Peter Parker. And there's even a point where he takes for the suit. And he's like, if you're nothing without the suit, then you don't need it. Which is a great aspect to the story. And it creates a good storyline. But I feel like it's like, okay, there's the Avengers Tower, there's Happy, there's Iron Man, there's a cameo by Captain America, you know. This is a fun one where he's like, oh, you're not Hulk, you're not Thor, you ain't the Avengers, and they're robbing the bank. That's pretty fun. I like that. But yeah, I just thought that stuff, like, okay, let's keep that out. Like, okay, where's Uncle Ben? What happened to him? You know, Aunt May really doesn't do much in this movie. She does better in the sequel. Well, the third one. I thought she really did decent in the third one. This one, she has her moments, but I would say out of all the Aunt Mays, she's probably the weakest. Like, she doesn't really say anything or do anything. I just didn't really care, honestly.
She's too young. Like,
yeah, she's like a MILF. Like, you know, like even Tony Stark says that. People are like, whoa, what is that? No, Tony Stark calls her a freaking MILF, dude. It's like, you know, Tony Stark even admits that. It's like, why did you make her like younger and younger and younger? It's like, what the fuck's going on here? Every universe she gets younger. But yeah, it's just there are some problems for me. There are points where, okay, the Spider-Man suit gets taken away. I feel like that happened a little too soon in the movie. I'm like, really? He loses the suit already? But it does have one of my favorite scenes in the Spider-Man films. And that's when he's pushing the rocks. And he's like, you know, he's crushed. He's crying. He's scared. He doesn't know what's going on. He's about to die. He thinks he's about to die. And he pushes the rocks. And he's like, come on, Spider-Man, come on. And he sees the mask in the water. He hears the words from Tony Stark. That scene was the closest they've gotten to the train sequence in the Spider-Man movies to me, where he's pushing it. And what drives me nuts is he gets the freaking thing pushed off, goes after Vulture, and what happens? He gets his ass kicked again. That I was not a fan of. He can't punch in this movie. He can't land a fucking punch to save his life. I'm like, bro, like those things bothered me. But the jokes, Tom Holland did a good job, you know. Honestly, also, I wasn't a big fan of MJ in this movie. She just was kind of there.
She's barely fucking in it.
Yeah,
you don't even know she's MJ till the end.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, "What? You're okay? Whatever. Okay, if you say so," type of thing. But
literally,
yeah,
they're just like, "Oh, that bitch is MJ." Wait, what? We're about to fucking end this movie? That's her? What? Jesus. This movie for me actually is the best of the Holland ones, and I'm not a big fan of the Holland ones. I'm not. And I guess, you know, we could start right up. I'm not a fan. I don't like Tom Holland. I've tried. I don't like him as an actor. I just don't get the appeal. But what this movie does right to me is that it's the smallest of all of them. It's the smallest Spider-Man movie. It's really the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, the movie. It really is. It's a smaller story, smaller scale villain. Homecoming, you get scenes of him actually being the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. I love that. And they play the Blitzkrieg Bop. You're standing in the back now. Like, amazing. There's hey, Spider-Man, do a flip. Yeah, I love that. There's a guy, he steals somebody's bike and he webs him up. And whoever's bike this is, you know, from your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, they got rid of the origin. Very smart to get rid of the origin. Showing him just being a hero around the town. Very cool. Sitting on the subway, checking his phone, the police scanners, almost like a video game. Really fun. I like that they annexed the origin and they said, hey, let's make this a smaller scale, almost like a John Hughes Spider-Man movie. It has a ton of heart to it. I like the whole Jennifer Connelly talking to him in the suit when he gets locked in the warehouse. Hey, Karen, tell me about this. Tell me about that. I like it. It has a nice heart to it. I like the friend Ned, the fat fuck friend. I like him. He's okay. Wearing fedoras at college or high school parties, whatever. I like him. He's an endearing character.
Yeah.
This one, even though MJ is in it and he is interested in Vulture's daughter, this is the only Spider-Man movie where the love interest is not really a thing. Like he has a crush on this girl, but none of the story really revolves around that. I really appreciate this movie for that. It's really Spider-Man's movie, and Michael Keaton as the Vulture, he's the best. After Dafoe and Molina, Michael Keaton's Vulture is the best villain of any of these movies. He is tremendous in this role.
Yeah.
And they do a great job at humanizing him, and he's doing this really to support his family. And I love there's a great scene between the two of them. There's two really great scenes between them. First of all, they're in the car and he's driving them to the homecoming dance. And Michael Keaton realizes that he is Spider-Man and good old Spider-Man was there to save the day. It's great. Michael Keaton is scary. And he's like, go ahead. I got to go talk to Peter for a little bit. He's like, I will murder you and your entire fucking family if you do not mess with my business. And he's like, I'll let you go now. Really good. And then there's a scene where he confronts him and he's, hey, I found you and you're just a kid. You don't understand the real world. And I understand enough to know that it's not good to sell, weapons to bad men. And he says, how do you think your buddy Stark paid for that fucking tower? Great comeback. Like, he really puts a lot into perspective. Tony Stark's no fucking angel. Tony Stark will tell you Tony Stark's no fucking angel. Michael Keaton's Vulture comes out and says that here. And I really like Michael Keaton in this role. Like, blew me away. I was like, man, I would have brought him back. That's how good Michael Keaton was. Where this movie loses me in aspects, the action scene at the end, very weak.
Yeah.
Probably the weakest of any of them. There's not a struggle. There's not this no punching bullshit, really bad move. Tom Holland should fucking okay, in No Way Home, he finally punches. It took 2 movies for him to throw a punch as Spider-Man. Crippled him, really crippled him. The stuff with Iron Man, yeah, it's annoying. It's there. It doesn't hurt this movie for me that much, though. I don't know how I feel about the action sequences in this. I think Jon Watts got the endearment of the character and the heart of the character, but the action around it is very blah. But it is the smallest of these movies, so I can forgive it for that. I have fun with it. I think it's a fun movie, and it's one that I actually can go back. I could see myself 5-10 years from now rewatching this. Of these 3 Tom Holland ones, it's easily my favorite. I like the small scale, the John Hughes approach, and I think that the story, the decisions creatively they made were very smart. And this one more so than any of the other 2 Tom Holland ones. This one, I like it on a small scale. To me, it works.
Yeah. Overall, I really enjoy it. I would say probably it is better than the other 2 because I do love the third one a lot. I just think that that movie, yeah, I can't wait to get to that one because that one I'm like over here hearing all these reviews for and the greatest movie of all time. I'm like, why? Because Toby and Andrew came back, instantly greatest movie. Like, let's talk about how, he brings the villains back to his house and his aunt is right there.
Spider-Man brings the villains to his fucking villa and they fought. What? It's a bunch of bullshit. But yeah, I think what endears me to this too is like in a world where it's, Avengers Endgame and fucking everything has to be the end of the world, the biggest thing, the biggest deal. This movie's like, fuck that shit. This revolves around a homecoming dance and Michael Keaton selling weapons illegally to people. It's very small, but to me, that's why it works and stands out. It really does. My biggest problem probably is Tom Holland. That's probably my biggest problem. But, I can overlook it. I think the movie around him is good enough. I think Michael Keaton carries it. I really do. And he acts circles around Tom Holland for me. Mm-hmm. But I do think, for what it's worth, this movie's heart carries it too. I don't know. I enjoy this movie. I have a good time with it. I can see why people wouldn't like it. But I get why there are some people that will tell you this is the best of any of the Spider-Man movies. I don't know if I go that far, but I do think it's a good start for the Tom Holland trilogy, although I don't really think you have any step ups from here. But if you had to rate this out of 10, what would you rate it?
I give it a solid 8. I think it's a lot better than the Amazing Spider-Man movies. I think it's better than the other 2. while I enjoy the other two Tom Holland movies, I think this one's definitely the one that has the best story and the best character moments. And like you said, I enjoy the smaller scale, and you have a good point with that. It's different. It's not very common with the MCU to have a movie where, oh my God, Thanos, oh my God, Ultron, oh my God, this guy, Ronan or whatever, not Ronan. Was it Ronan in Guardians of the Galaxy?
I don't know.
Yeah. Here's the Celestial and Guardians of the Galaxy too. Here's all these different like you said, world threatening things. Yeah, I enjoy it. It's got fun moments. It's the comedy. I think the comedy in this movie is not what bothers me. Tom Holland, this movie, I can deal with. I'm with you in the sequels. There are moments where Tom Holland, I cannot stand the whole, oh my God, like I'm Spider-Man, but I gotta crack an awkward joke, and it's not really funny, but it's not really awful. It's awkward. I'm like, bro, stop talking and just go in there and fight. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like,
throw a punch, you fucking pussy. Jesus Christ. Like, he and the shit in the second. Oh my God, the shit with Mysterio in the next one pisses me off. But let's get to comments. We'll get to the next one. Homecoming is a decent movie for me, but not a good Spider-Man movie. I've heard a lot of people say that. I think that's the whole. Like, it's so small, and a lot of people are just like thrown by it. Like, what? Like, I expect a grand epic from a Spider-Man, a $100 million movie. I appreciate the smaller step, but I can see why people would be turned off. I don't like this movie that much. It doesn't feel like a Spider-Man movie to me. I don't like the fact that he's Iron Man Jr., but Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton is the big standout of this movie. He really is.
Yeah.
Michael Keaton holds the entire movie on his shoulders. Not a big fan of the Holland saga. Neither am I. I think of the three, though, this is the one I'd try to watch the most. I could see myself watching this down the road. I don't think you can really do solo superhero movie anymore because anything that happened, people will always ask, why aren't the other Avengers there to help? What do you think of that?
Well, they still do it. Like, so far in Moon Knight, I haven't really been noticing that. Moon Knight feels separate. WandaVision feels separate. I'll say that the TV shows and the more recent movies, they do that where it's like, even the Eternals are like, where's the Avengers? That question does pop up, but it's still their own movies. They're not having, here's Captain America showing up just to have a cameo, and then, he's gone, never to be seen again. I'm like, just leave them out. Like, this isn't their movie. They had their fucking $3 or $4 million movies. Let Spider-Man do his thing. You don't gotta have, like, to me, this is a pet peeve for me. Like, you ain't gotta have Tony Stark after Endgame still saving Peter's life in the third movie, because there's things that Tony Stark does that he programs into the suit that save Spider-Man's life. So even when he's dead, he's still saving Spider-Man. I'm like let Spider-Man be Spider-Man. And people are like, well, he's young, he's a teenager. And I'm like, well, Andrew Garfield, Tobe Maguire, they were in college and high school. So like, they're not much. It's not like they're like way older than this character. And I'm like, there's just certain things that, like, I don't know. I feel like that, to get back to this real quick, I'm sorry I got off topic, but yeah, I think that it still works though. Like, they've done it in Moon Knight, they've done it in a lot of TV shows and recent movies. They've done it recently where they've kept it in their own movies, basically. Not
and I know this isn't Marvel, but Batman, the new Batman, I thought was really, really good, and that did.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not Batman and Robin and Batgirl and fucking Nightwing versus fucking seven. Like, to me, it's like you can still do solo superhero movies. It's just it's a lot harder now. I agree with Mark. I know what Mark's trying to say. It's like it's harder to do the solo superhero movie now, but that's why I appreciate this movie. I think it's the last, because when you look at No Way Home, it's not a solo. It's a trio superhero movie. Aunt May was not supposed to be attractive, at least in the MCU. Aunt May was always attractive, you cowards. Doc Ock likes gilfs, John Steele. In the other movies, Aunt May was beautiful inside. That's a good point. That's a very good point. Hey, that's my Spider-Man title, The Friendly Neighborhood. He realized he was Spider-Man when the green trap. Yes, that's a great shot when he's smiling. Good old Spider-Man. Dad, the light's green. Good stuff. I like the Karen suit. That's not in any of the other ones. I actually really like Jennifer Connelly as the Karen suit. I just think Peter doesn't have enough to struggle in the movie. He's being coddled by Tony Stark too much, and no mention of Uncle Ben. Yeah, no, I could see that. But the movie itself is okay. Yes, Rowan was Guardians. Okay. And haha, great impression, Nate. Yeah, no, for real. That brings us to 2019, I think. What is this movie? This is Spider-Man Far From Home. I think this is my least favorite. I really, really do. I don't know. This is the only one I didn't rewatch for this because I watched it not too long ago when I got this set. Initial thoughts, though, from you, man. What do you like about this one?
It's okay. I mean, rewatching it quite a few times, like maybe 3 times I watched it. I watched it when I first seen it, rewatched it a while ago, and I rewatched it recently. And it's okay. It's just there's a lot of problems with this movie. And this is where I'm like, okay, Tom Holland, this is your second movie. You're still not punching much. You're still getting your ass kicked. You're still not doing much. You're getting your ass kicked by a fucking bell, you know. And the whole plot is Spidey sense. That's the whole thing. He learned his Spidey sense. And I'm like, why does he have to learn that though? Like that should be part of his powers. And it's like, well, it's a conflict. I'm like, yeah, but it's part of his power. It's like a movie where Superman's in a second movie and he can't fly. It's like, okay, I get what you're trying to do. It's a conflict, but like, come on. Like, it's different. I'll give you that's different, but I don't know. I like Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio. I liked the aspect of it not being in New York. Finally, a Spider-Man movie that's outside of New York. Okay, that's different. I enjoy that aspect. Although I think he fits the New York setting best, but I feel like it's pretty cool. Okay, he's on this trip. It's a fun idea. Oh, okay, he has the glasses, and there's some fun stuff there. There's fun moments. I like Mysterio. I like Jake Gyllenhaal. I think it's the best they could have done with Mysterio. To me, I know some people hate Mysterio. I could see why you would hate Mysterio. Yeah, I could see it. It's definitely like, to me, I don't mind it. But if you're a huge Mysterio guy, I could see where there's problems there because Mysterio doesn't even fight Spider-Man at all. Like either it's all illusions, which I get it. He never really fought him in the animated series that much, at least from what I remember. But it just felt like Mysterio wasn't much of a like comparing the Vulture, Michael Keaton. You have Jake Gyllenhaal, not bad acting wise, but as a villain, it's just a kind of a step down as far as the way it's done, and it just feels like kind of like a filler movie. Like there's not really much that comes from this movie. You cut it out. The only really important things is the MJ stuff, where MJ and Peter Parker become, boyfriend and girlfriend finally. The Spidey sense stuff and Mysterio revealing the identity of Spider-Man. That's about it. Like everything, the rest of it's just filler. It's Tom Holland to me in this movie. You're getting more of that. Well, I gotta crack a joke before I go in and fight. I don't know what to say, so I'm just gonna awkwardly say this quick joke. I'm like, bro, like, just say your quip and go. Like, why are you spending 5 minutes on a quip? Like, you're in the middle of a fucking fight, and you're
thank you, Jesus.
You're in the middle of a fight, and you're over here. Oh, I gotta make a joke. And to me, the humor bothered me a lot more in this, where I'm like, that joke did not land. Oh, that didn't land. Oh, that was pretty bad. Where I didn't laugh. I'm just like, that did not. Yeah, and the random like, oh, here's the scrolls in there, and Sam Jackson was never real. It was a scroll. I'm like, what the fuck? Jesus. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of bad stuff in this movie. It's a step down for me from Homecoming. Big step down.
Me too. I like right off the bat, to me, Mysterio is completely botched. I generally like Jake Gyllenhaal. In this movie, did nothing for me. It really he did not follow what Michael Keaton brought to me. Although he's playing a different Mysterio, like to me, the Mysterio in the at least in the comics he was like a big like film. He wanted to be an actor. He failed, and then he became like a special effects guy, and then accidentally one of his special effects went wrong, and the person got killed, and he had to struggle with a lot of depression, inner conflict, and then he became Mysterio, the Lord of Illusions. I would love to have seen that adaptation much more than what they do here. I don't know. Like, okay, you think the changing the setting that would work? I mean, it's no offense to Italy, but it's like didn't really add that much to this movie for me. It didn't take anything away, but it didn't really add much. It wasn't like, I don't know, it wasn't the number one place I would have liked to have seen Spider-Man other than New York City. But yeah, Tom Holland, this movie is unbearable to me. And like in this movie, when they're trying to do the whole I don't want to be Spider-Man thing, it's really good. And you feel bad. This movie, it's like, you're like, Tom Holland, you're a fucking idiot. And he basically is like, oh, hey, I'll give my glasses to Mysterio. I don't want to be Spider-Man. I want to fuck Zendaya. What? Like, what?
They make him a dumbass sometimes. I'm like, what? Why would you do that? Like, what are you thinking? Oh, eliminate. Oh, I didn't mean eliminate as in kill. Like, it said eliminate. What the fuck else does eliminate mean, Tom? Like, not Tom. Okay, the writing. Okay, Peter Parker. Like, why? It says, okay, here's your target. Would you like to eliminate? Eliminate? Sure. Not kill. Don't kill. It's like, well, what else did you think it meant? Like, there's just moments where I'm like, they made him a dumbass. Getting knocked out by a bell. I'm like, bro, what? Like, clunking the head on the bell? Like, they made him just a joke in this movie. I didn't like it.
I agree. I think the character is unbearably stupid. I feel no chemistry between he and Zendaya. Nothing. I know they were a couple in real life. It doesn't translate to the screen. Maybe in the next one it's better, but in this particular movie, nothing. I mean, nothing there. I'm like, fucking what the fuck? Like, is anything gonna go? Like, I don't know. I don't like that. Okay, the action sequences are probably a step up from Homecoming. That's the one thing that maybe stepped up here. I like the whole thing, the final act with the illusions, and he has to use his spider stents to take out. Granted, Spider-Man fighting drones? What? Like, you have Mysterio, like the Lord of Illusions. Why not monsters? Why not, creative, like something like that? Drones? But in the third act of this movie, Spider-Man fights 700 drones at once. Drones? Like, what the? He's fighting Amazon drones?
I was gonna say Amazon drones flying packages over, dropping them on his head.
What? Like, yeah, we're gonna fucking next air delivery a fucking dumbbell on this motherfucker's head. I don't like the drone thing. Jake Gyllenhaal, he's trying to be intimidating. You want these glasses? Come and get them. I'm like, Jake Gyllenhaal, what the fuck are you doing? He also, Mysterio in this movie has a posse. Like, this illusion. Oh, hey, everybody. Good job, everybody. What? That's not fucking Quentin. That's not Mysterio. Did Mysterio have a fucking posse that I never knew of in the comic? I know some people I watched it with a group of friends when I got, by the way, if you have a soundbar or subwoofer or stuff, these movies fucking kick ass with that stuff. I will say that. But they were laughing at them. I'm like, that shit ain't fucking funny. This is a bunch of bullshit. But I don't know. People find it funny. I just wasn't one of them. They do try to have an arc for Tom Holland in this movie. Because spoiler alert, Iron Man died in Endgame, and he's trying to do it for him and, become into his own. I get it, but I don't know. To me, this is the weakest of the bunch. It has the aside from the end action scene, I don't like hardly any of the action scenes in this. When they fight the giant CGI water monster, what? Like, that was bad. And he wears the little mat, like the Mardi Gras mat. Like, what? Like, I don't know. This movie, the giant fire monster on the Ferris wheel, CGI. Like, to me, it's like all of the creative things they could have done with Mysterio, they didn't do them. Giant CGI water monster, giant CGI fire monster, and drones. People will jack off to that. No, that's a bunch of bullshit. Like, you should have just had some fucking cool. Like, imagine you throw Godzilla in there, and this was Spider-Man Far From Home in fucking Hong Kong. That would have been fucking cool. Like, Spider-Man versus Godzilla. Holy shit! I don't know. Anything would have been better than drones. I don't know. And what do you feel about the whole ending with Mysterio? Like, the whole reason he basically beats Mysterio is because he's too close to the drone to get shot by a drone. Like, I thought that was weak.
It's another lame ending. These movies all have honestly, all of them pretty bad endings. Like even No Way Home to me, the final conflict scene I thought was just it was there. It's probably the best one, but like I thought it was another weak ending. And plus, I didn't like how they killed off Mysterio in his first movie. I'm like, you kill him off again, or not again, but you kill off another villain. Like you ain't gotta kill off all the villains. Like I just don't like that. Just defeat him, put him in handcuffs. I'll get you next time, Spider-Man. Something like that. Not saying one more line, and he does die, doesn't he? I could have sworn he dies. Or maybe
he dies, and like the twist is he exposed him though and made it look like Spider-Man murdered him. But here's a question for you, because a lot of people say I'm crazy for this, and I don't know how you stand on this. A lot of people will say, well, Grande, at least Mysterio at the end of this movie is still a fucking villain. Because in Spider-Man 2, Doc Ock turns babyface at the end. Spider-Man 3, Harry turns babyface at the end. In Homecoming, Vulture doesn't give away Spider-Man's identity at the end. A lot of these movies, the villain turns to babyface at the end. This is one that doesn't do that. Do you like that change of pace, or do you like? What do you feel about the fact that he stays and remains a villain? I like aspects, but I don't at the same time.
I mean, I like it, but it wasn't treated like a big deal. Basically, it was just like, oh, he just kind of died and he remained the same, and they didn't do anything with it. You know, I mean, it led to the ending, but I liked it. It's different. I liked it. It just wasn't like I was like, oh my god, it's finally another villain that died as a villain. Basically, like no, like it was cool. It was cool. I liked it.
Yeah. I don't know. Like this one for me, it's the least like rewatchable of any of them. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll ever rewatch this again. Like I just didn't care for it. Again, it has that John Hughes tone. This movie takes a while to get going. Like they're in Italy, they're taking pictures for a little while. They're going to a fucking opera. It's like we're like 45 minutes in and nothing has fucking happened. Like what the fuck? Like I don't know. This movie takes a little bit longer to get going for me. Pacing wise, this is the worst one, easily. Takes the longest to get going for me. I don't know. For me, this is the weakest Spider-Man movie. I would probably come in like a 4.5 or a 5 out of 10. I do not care for this movie.
Yeah, 5, maybe a 6. It's around there. It's one of my lower rated Spider-Man movies. I don't hate it. It's just nothing really special. Kind of one of the mediocre, I guess is what I could say. Just a mediocre movie.
It is. It's a filler, mediocre. I agree. Master Fear hates it. Haven't seen this one. They took away Mysterio's main thing. Yes, they should have used the monsters or just something. I don't know. Drones? He wasn't even a Spider-Man villain. He hated Tony Stark. At least Vulture wanted Spider-Man dead. That's a good point. Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of he hates Tony Stark. Like the whole beef is between he and Stark, not Spider-Man. I like the implementation of drones to use illusions, but making him another butthurt Stark employee drags him down. Yeah, that was very weak. I did not care for that story arc for him. When I saw this movie on DVD, I wish that I was far from home. Yeah, no, I kind of agree with that. That's not a bad point. Were you shocked that his friend wasn't named Harry? I think that's another thing. They just were like, we can't do Harry again. Like, we got to have to shake it up, which that I don't mind. I like Ned. Exactly. They should have been more creative with his illusions rather than using Hydro Man. But no bueno. Jake Gyllenhaal isn't one of those sequel actors, though. Yeah, I don't even know if I like the actor. This particular, maybe it was just he didn't have much to. Maybe it's the way of Tom Holland too. Maybe it's just the material is bad. I don't know. I don't know if it's necessarily the actor. For me, I don't know. I feel like it is sometimes. 1 out of 10, 2 people say. So that's very low. I think it's still, it's an average, just not one of my favorites. I don't hate any of these. I really don't. But that brings us to the last film of the night, Nate. That brings us to late 2021. I sort of consider it 2022 because I saw it in January of 2022. This is Spider-Man No Way Home, aka
ever.
Yeah, best film ever. Yeah. Tell me, because I want to know your whole theater experience with this, because I saw this way after it got released. So I don't know if you saw this opening night. Like, tell me.
Yeah. I seen it the very first day, opening night. Got perfect seats, center of the theater, right there, IMAX. And I'll say this. It was a very fun theater experience. Probably one of the best theater experiences because we were all fans there. When Toby and Andrew walked out, all of us were marking out and like, yeah, it was an experience. And walking out of the movie, I was like, yeah, it's the best Tom Holland one. And I was on that high. I was like, dude, it was great. It was great. I was there. And then I thought about it for a minute. And I'm like, well, I feel like we watched an almost 3-hour long movie just to see Andrew and Toby come back. Literally, if they didn't come back, would anybody else be talking about this movie? And I'm like, dare I say, would this movie get that hype if Andrew and Toby didn't come back and you just had Tom Holland? I'm curious. I'm very curious. As far as the theater experience goes, it was fun. It was excellent. You know, everybody was emotional. It was crazy. I wasn't like most people over here crying and, you know, oh my God, he's back. Oh, if you were crying, that's fine. I'm not making fun of you, but I just wasn't like that emotionally into it. It was just when Toby walked in, I smiled. I'm like, that's a good moment. And when Andrew walked in, that was a good moment. I didn't expect that. I thought it was just gonna be Toby, but when Andrew walked in, I'm like, holy shit, who's that? That's not Toby. Who is that? Oh, it's Andrew. Oh, fuck. Like, that's the one that surprised me because I'm like, Toby, he's coming back. But Andrew, he wasn't really, those movies really weren't well received, so he might come back, but might not. So when he walked in, I was like, yeah. I won't lie for that. I was like, oh, shit. I might even said that out loud. I was like, whoa. But, yeah, as a theater experience, it was definitely fun. It was just thinking about it afterward is where we get into the interesting stuff.
Yeah, no, I had the same, like, I had fun with it. And I think if you're a fan and you just want to, you know, be pleased, it's fan service. Like, it is a fan service. It's like, it's delivering you, you know, it's signed, sealed, delivered. And I think a lot of people, that's why they love this movie. And there's nothing wrong with that before I get into my problems with this movie. I do think it's a fun time. I love to see Toby and Garfield. And Garfield stole it for me. I really liked him. I do think the movie has a lot going for it. And it is a watchable, and a movie I will rewatch. I will, like, over Far From Home, I would rewatch this in a heartbeat. I would just to, you know, I haven't watched more than once. I've only seen it the one time in the theater. I would like to revisit this one though. I will say, get my positives. I guess we'll get the positives out of the way first. I do think, and for me, all the shit I've said about Tom Holland, he does give his best performance in this movie, I think, as the character. I love the ending scene where he has to let go of MJ and Ned, and he's in the diner or the cafe or something, and he's looking at them, and you see he also wants to say something, but he knows for the better of them, he has to walk out. And that's Spider-Man's arc in this movie. It is well done. Considering how dumb he is throughout all three of these movies, it's nice to finally see that he learned from his mistakes. And Tom Holland does do a much better job. With all that being said, though, I do have a lot of problems with this movie. I don't think it's the masterpiece people are telling you. I do think you're right. Like, a lot of people just went in there to see that, whoa, it's them. Oh, my God. And it was cool. It was really cool. Although I think it could have been done better. Yeah, I really do. The whole introducing that you introduced them in this random lady's living room.
Yeah, like, they just kind of walk into the movie like, oh,
yeah. Like, I thought it'd be something dramatic, like, you know, Tom Holland's getting his ass kicked, and then all of a sudden you see a web, and it's fucking Tobe Maguire or something like that. But then again, I guess you wanted time for them to interact, so I get it. Like, it's not easy to make a movie like this because it's like, this is something we never thought we were going to see. And the fact that you got all three live action Spider-Man to be in the same movie together and fight together in the third act in and of itself is really cool. Like, you'll never see that with Batman. You're never going to see Michael Keaton and Val Kilmer, George Clooney, and fucking Ben Affleck and Christian Bale all fighting together at the end of a movie. You're never going to see that. Like, this was really a once in a lifetime opportunity, and they took their shot at it. But if you look at this thing, I see a lot of problems. First and foremost, this is Tom Holland's third movie. You're bringing back villains from the other movies. Like, you're bringing back Defoe, and he's the main villain in this. okay, like you're stealing the main villain of the first movie. Okay. And Doc, we're going to take Doc Ock too. Oh, you're going to take Electro too. Like there's not enough that was established in Holland's world that's in this movie. Like there's no Vulture. There's no Mysterio, even though Mysterio got the ball rolling. I don't know. Like, what does that say about you if you're taking villains from the other movies to fucking, I don't know. To me, that's weak. What do you think?
I agree. I thought it was the villains to me. There's a lot of missteps there. First of all, the biggest one is that you tease Venom at the end of the second movie. He gets teleported to the MCU. Awesome. At the end of this movie, he's at a bar with Brock's at a bar getting drunk, and he doesn't show up. And the fans were saying for so long, "Oh my God, you got Green Goblin, Sandman, Electro, Lizard, Doc Ock. We can have the Sinister Six. We can have Venom come in, and you'd have Eddie Brock. You'd have him interacting with these. Then you'd have all these universes coming together." Didn't happen. That I thought was a giant misstep. Them making Sandman a villain like that, like, oh, you said you was gonna. What did you do to him? Did you kill him? Oh my God! He flips out and he just turns on Spider-Man like that. I'm like, what the fuck? And then Lizard, nothing to do in this movie.
Nothing.
Not one moment. There was not one moment for Lizard. The only villain to me that got treated halfway decent, well, besides Green Goblin, was probably Electro. He got some decent moments, but Green Goblin to me is the villain that stole the show. But because Dafoe was amazing. He was great. It was awesome seeing Dafoe back as Green Goblin. He's the best villain in the movie to me. But them making Doc Ock a good guy, I thought was a giant-ass misstep. Him losing the nanobites, I get it. I just didn't like it. It's like, okay, I get it. The nanotechnology, I understand. But then they laugh at Doc Ock. I'm Dr. Otto Octavius. Like them laughing at this villain. I'm like, are you? Even in the theater, people were like, "What? Why?" People were like, "Don't do that. Don't laugh."
And Aunt May offers him. She's like, "Can I get you salt water because you're an octopus?" What? Like I'm sitting there. I'm like, "That's in the movie. Like, why didn't you just write that? That was a fucking horrendous joke. Like, what the fuck?"
Yeah, the humor is to me the humor, the script, and a lot of the plot elements are the biggest issues for me. There's scenes in this movie that I thought were so stupid, like legit stupid, that I thought were just like, why would Spider-Man bring them back to the house? And he has his mind set to push the button, but yet them saying, oh, your aunt told you this quote before she died. Well, maybe she didn't die for no reason. And he's just like, oh, okay, we'll go fix them. I'm like, no build up, no. He's going to push it, and then he goes, nah, maybe you're right. No, you're just like, oh, okay. I'm just like, what? Like, no second thought? Like, everything that happens in this movie technically was Peter's fault because he was the one who fucked up the spell. Doctor Strange is an asshole. He's over here like, I know I fucked it up, but, you kind of fucked it up, so go out there and clean up the mess. I'm like, Doctor Strange, you're a wizard. And you got
he buries Doctor Strange. He fucking buries Doctor Strange in this. Like, what? Like, Triple H Golden Shovel style. Like, he beat Doctor Strange in his own fucking game. What the fuck? What?
With geometry, basic geometry, against Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange, a genius. And Peter beats him with basic geometry. I was insulted by that scene. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? That scene pissed me off. A lot of the villain scenes pissed me off. There was definitely, I liked this movie, but I would say, even though I liked Far From Home less, there were things that pissed me off a lot more in this movie where I was like, bro, like you had opportunity right there. You could have done it that way. And it's like, we'll just be grateful you got it. I'm grateful, but when you have Lizard sitting in a van not doing anything and you got Doc Ock having a face turn out of nowhere, it's just like, I didn't, there was a lot of times they dropped the ball with certain things in this movie.
There is. I agree. I like, it's funny because like, if I turned my brain off and just watched it, I think it's a good time. It is.
Yeah.
I do think Okay, the action sequences could have been better. I really didn't like the CGI Doc Ock arms.
wanted
To
your
me,
thoughts on that. I wanted your thoughts on this, the CGI in general, because I thought the CGI didn't look that impressive in this movie at times.
me
Where I was
neither.
like, that looked like a green screen, like straight up.
The whole sequence on the highway of Doc Ock versus Tom Holland, nothing. Like it didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't think it looked. I thought it looked bad. I thought it looked quite bad. I really like. Hello, Peter. It was cool. I was like, holy shit, Melina's back. I love Melina, but again, the whole psychology of oh, we ripped them out and we don't know where. It's like, okay, but you're ruining some of the arcs of these characters in other movies. Like Doc Ock just died, and I will not die a monster. It's why even I don't know. Like a lot of this, it is very contrived. But again, like I'm saying, if you turn your brain off, you will enjoy this movie. I just think like if you think about it, you're going to be like, wait a minute, this is sort of bullshit in some ways.
Yeah.
And that's my main feeling towards this movie. Like I can have fun with it, but if somebody said, okay, could you pick this movie apart? I could pick apart everything in it. I really could.
Yeah.
But I will say, and I think Jon Watts of these three directors, he was the one that tried to bring the most heart and endearment to this character. It was very nice to see him handle Garfield and Maguire and Holland together. I like the scenes with them, in the lab, and they do the Spider-Man, the pointing meme. I like that. The scene where they're all talking. Oh, I have this back problem, and your web fluid, it's organic. What the heck? The interaction between the three of them, I wish that could just be the whole movie. Like to me, it's a really long time until you get there. But once you do, I'm all in. I like it. I really do like the three of them together. And I love the song they use at the end. 3, it's the magic number. That's the perfect, like, yeah, totally. Like what a cool, idea to bring these two live action actors back that both aren't too old for it now. This was the only time the iron was hot. You had to strike and do it. Because Into the Spider-Verse made a lot of money. And that's why this movie is the way it is. I appreciate they went for something hot and it sold. People loved this. People say it's the best Spider-Man movie. I don't think so, but I do think it does a lot right. It has the endearment there. I think it has the best arc of any of the Tom Holland movies where he does at the end, he learns, I am a fucking idiot. I have to let them go. And he starts over, right? Because the end of this movie, he has his own apartment and he's swinging out. And that's the coolest suit of any of these movies, I thought. Was the suit at the end of this. Almost like the Spider-Man PS4 game. He gets out of his apartment, he's swinging, and he's off to, live his low life. I don't know how I felt about the stuff with Aunt May. I didn't feel the quite emotion like I did with Uncle Ben in the Tobe Maguire ones, but I don't know. People seem to really like that. I don't know. I guess after her being a gilf and or offering Doc Ock salt water, it just is odd. Like, okay, now we're going to kill her and make it all serious. I don't know. Tonally, it didn't work for me. But I fucking almost cried when Andrew Garfield was like, I lost Gwen. I don't know why. I was in the theater. I was like, oh my God, I'm fucking about to cry right now. Like, he did a good job. I don't know. Heart-wise, I like this movie. And turn my brain off, I like this movie. But, man, if you think about it for long enough, it is sort of a mess.
Yeah, because, like, I approach it the same way where like I said, the Amazing Spider-Man 2. Amazing Spider-Man 2 has a lot of problems, but I could approach it and really enjoy it. And the same thing with this movie. I feel like it's a lot like that movie where there's jokes that don't land, there's awkward moments that don't quite like. But I will say this though, like Tom Holland's decisions in this movie, like as the character Peter Parker, like when he is messing with the spell like that, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, oh, you did all of this just because you couldn't get into college. Like that kind of stuff where I'm like, so what? Like you didn't get into college. Okay. Like just try other colleges. He's like, and even Dr. Strange, like, did you call them? And he's like, no. It's like, he's like, I didn't know you could do that. I'm like, oh my God. Like it's those moments where I'm like, come on, you didn't got to make them like that. Oh, we're going to send them all back. Oh, you are? They could die. No, you're not. And then just takes them. Like, what are you doing, man? Like, you fuck it all up and you get people killed. Like, I get it. You're supposed to feel bad for him because he's just a kid. He fucks up. I understand that. But I'm like, there's just easy fixes in this movie where I'm like, this could have all been easily fixed. But what I don't understand is that it just gets like a lot more critical praise than the Amazing Spider-Man 2 does. and that movie gets buried, and this one gets praised and said the greatest of all time. And I'm like, I love it. I think it's a great movie. I just am curious if it's the nostalgia factor, if that's what really gets it bumped up there or not, you know.
I think it is. I definitely think it is. Because okay, look at the final installment, at least to date, for all three, the Raimi trilogy, the Webb duology, and the fucking Watts trilogy. Spider-Man 3 could be considered the black sheep. Amazing Spider-Man 2 could be considered the black sheep. No Way Home, it's considered the best of all of them. All three of them have so much going on.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot. And like, it's funny because for you, like you said, Amazing Spider-Man 2 gets the shit. Spider-Man 3, Raimi's film, gets the shit. And this gets the praise. Why? I do think it's the nostalgia factor. I would love in a parallel world to see if because everybody was speculating it. They didn't say or announce it that they were in the movie. Everybody pretty much thought and knew, but it was never said. Imagine if this movie didn't have them in it. And Tom Holland, in the end, he fought them all, beat them all in the same movie, but without those two being brought into the third act. I really do wonder how popular this would have been.
Yeah.
I really do. Because I go in thinking, oh, Tobe Maguire's back. I mean, I'm a fanboy for him. And Garfield steals the show. I thought he was the best performance in this whole movie. Even, and I love Dafoe. I thought he was even better than Dafoe. I was like, wow, Garfield blew me away. I was like, I want to see Amazing Spider-Man 3. That's how much I liked him. But without them, I don't know. I really wonder. I think it's a shame to see that they needed them to make this great. Although I like that they're in it, I think without them, I don't know. I really, in a parallel world, would like to know the reaction, you know? But with that said, I have fun with the movie. I had a good time with it. It's not a piece of shit on any fucking stretch of the imagination. It's just like, there's problems there, but I think people just let them go because of nostalgia and comfort food. And like, I could see why people do that. I don't think it's right that some people will say, oh, that's not why, or I can ignore that here. Like, bullshit. You can't ignore it in Amazing Spider-Man 2 or Spider-Man 3. You can ignore it here. Like, let's call a spade a spade. That's what I think.
Yeah, because there are people that will say those are the worst comic book movies, and they come to this and they praise it. And I'm just like, I'm curious because a lot of the issues with those movies are here, and some people will even acknowledge those problems, and they'll still be like, well, it's still the best one. I'm like, but how? Like, I don't get it. Like, because Tom had Andrew and Toby there too. Like, it's great. I don't know. If I look past that stuff, though, I agree with you. It's a very fun movie. It was an excellent theater experience. It was a lot of fun to watch. I'm going to be revisiting it pretty soon again, along with the Batman, because now they're coming out with streaming services and stuff like that. But
I want to rewatch the Batman.
Me too. That's the one I'm really excited to check out again. But it's a good way to kind of cap that Homecoming trilogy and kind of start out anew. Okay, here's a fresh start. No more Tony Stark. No more robot suit. No more any of that. Here's normal suit. Normal Spider-Man. I like the reset. Okay, now we can start on a new trilogy or a new set of films because Miles is there. So eventually Tom's going to pass on the Miles. But here's the next. And I love the suit. The suit at the end of the movie is great looking. And also, I love the snow. If they can make a new Spider-Man movie in the snow, I would really like that. Although I don't think that's Amazing Spider-Man 2 have snow. I think it might have.
It was like sort of wintertime, but I don't know. It wasn't quite snowing crazy. I think I agree with everything you just said. I would like, granted, I don't know. Would you want to see another trilogy with Tom Holland, or do you think now is the time to just go with Miles Morales? Because they do hint it. Like Jamie Foxx is like, oh, I thought you were black to the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. And he goes, I'm sorry, man, I'm not. And he goes, I bet you there's a black Spider-Man somewhere. And I was like, oh, that's planning the Miles Morales, which I'm all for. Like, I'm all for that at this point because you had your 3 with Holland. Like, to me, if you do another one with Holland, wouldn't you have to do 3 more? Judging by today's movie standards, I mean, they always seem to go shoot trilogy.
Yeah. Probably.
So would you do 6 like a saga with Tom Holland? Would you? Or like, because at the end of this, it's like, okay, he's just going to go off and be Spider-Man. Like, I wonder what this sets up, because then you have so much going on in the Spider-Man universe now. You have Morbius that has all these problems, and apparently Vulture's back in that. And Tom Hardy's Venom has been teased to interact with Tom Holland. I would, but this is all speculation. We don't know what is next. I wonder. I don't know. Maybe if it was up to me, I would end it here. I would just hand the torch to Miles Morales, do a trilogy with him.
Yeah,
but
I feel like it's because I don't think Tom Holland is scheduled to do much more Spider-Man. Like, I think he has like 2 more movies left. I think maybe, but I think somewhere along the line, and that's like just movies. So like that's like, you know, Avengers and all those other things he could be involved in. But I mean, I'm down to see Miles Morales in live action because you got him in video games, you got him in animated movies, you got him in comics, cartoons and stuff. But we have yet to get a Miles Morales in movies. So, well, as far as live action movies go, so I would really be down to see that. I agree with you. Tom Holland, he did, you know, I enjoyed him, but I would say I enjoyed it. Like, to me, I enjoyed Andrew and Toby a lot more, but it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, you know, I see what you mean. It's just like the story's been told, it's been done, it's reset, everything's had closure. So like, you know, I see what you mean. I'm like kind of ready to move on to the next thing. The story.
I think the Peter Parker character is like, you had 3 Peter Parkers in this last movie. It's like, and this cat, like, it's beautiful. Came full circle. He realized, like, I really did. And as much as I hate Tom Holland, that last scene, that I was like, props. I was like, bravo. In the theater, I was like, that's the best acting he ever did. He doesn't say a word. He looks at the both of them and realizes, I have to let them go. I don't want to. The child in me wants to keep pursuing this, but I have to mature and let them go.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you think that a lot of what Tom Holland's performance was that he just was talking and talking and talking? Do you think that maybe more of the quiet performances, like kind of how Pattinson just kind of dialed it back and didn't talk as much, he just more about being quiet? Do you think Tom should just have more serious moments maybe as the character?
Yes, totally. The Tom Holland movies are the weakest because Toby, we laughed. There were things we laughed about. The Bully Maguire and Bonesaw, and here's your change. You had levity. But when shit got serious, he threw out the suit and Uncle Ben's death. And the same thing with Garfield. He has the scene where Flash is, hey, I heard about your uncle. He grabs him, pushes him in. He's angry. And Gwen hugs him, and he doesn't hug back. And where was that moment here for Tom Holland? Oh, Aunt May's death. I don't know. I didn't feel the same.
Yeah, it lasted for like a second, and then he was like, okay, we can go fix some stuff, and starts cracking jokes again. I'm like, it's like it's a bump in the road kind of thing. Like, oh, okay, we'll move on to the next. I'm like, what? Like, he just died. Like, it's time. Like, what?
I think, totally the Tom Holland character, it suffers the most. And maybe it's not his fault. Maybe I'm just being unfair. I just think, like, a lot of these movies, they have really good, you know, impactful performance. This character, this actor, for me, didn't have enough of that. In this movie, though, that I swear that scene, and I was like, wow, would have liked to have seen more of this over any of the first, 2 9/10 movies that I watched. The last 10th of this fucking movie had a really good scene with him where he didn't even have to say a word, and completely I got what they were going for. I don't know. I just would have liked to see that. But to me, I don't know, man. I would be all for giving the fucking reins to Miles Morales. Yeah. I don't know who they'd want to play him, but I'd be all open for it. To me, it's like, do a trilogy of that if you're going to do something next. Like, to me, this was a nice ending for the Tom Holland character. Like, what else could they really do? Like, I feel like he came full circle. This was the movie where he got his arc. And I don't know. If I was to do another one of the, like, any of them, I would do the Garfield movie. I would do Amazing Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, I mean,
he never got to finish his trilogy. That's the one of the 3 that his story needs to be closed, I think.
Yeah. There's just so many rumors right now, Spider-Man. Some are saying, oh, Amazing Spider-Man 3, Spider-Man 4, new Tom Holland movies. And then there's rumors that Sony might want one separate universe again, but yet it'll be separate from the Amazing Spider-Man. And so it might have a recasted Spider-Man. And I'm like, we don't need another Peter Parker. We do not need another Spider-Man right now. There is a lot of Spider-Man. Like, I don't know what they're trying to do right now. I don't know if they're trying to make a new Spider-Man, like their own universe. Like, you have Sony, MCU, Spider-Man, Sam Raimi, and then you have the Marc Webb universe. It's like, and Spider-Verse. This one too. it's a House of the Spider-Verse too. So I'm like, bro, like there's so many universes. It's ridiculous sometimes to think about.
It is. It is. I don't know though. I had a good time rewatching all these movies again. Like it was fun to prep for this particular show. Because again, you have 3 different like sets of movies and they're all different in their own way and they all have positives. And honestly, I don't think there's a giant piece of shit out of any of these 8 movies. Like I think they're all either average or great. Like you have a few great movies on here. And all of them, at least there's not like that. There's not the Batman and Robin of this. There's nothing like that's that bad. There's just ones where I like less than others, but no giant turd or anything. But yeah, want to do a quick ranking and then we'll wrap this thing up.
Sure. It's like what, like worst to best?
Yeah, we can do worst to first. Absolutely.
Okay. I guess how I rank it is my least favorite probably would be Far From Home. Then it would go. Now again, I don't hate any of these movies, guys, so calm down.
Neither do I.
I would go Far From Home, No Way Home. Then I'd probably put Amazing Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, Amazing Spider-Man, Spider-Man 1, and Spider-Man 2. But those are 2 top tier movies for me. That's how I'd rank them.
My rank is probably very similar. Far From Home at the bottom. Then I'd probably go Amazing Spider-Man. Then Homecoming. Then No Way Home. Sorry, all the Home trilogy fucking me up there. Then Spider-Man 3. Amazing Spider-Man 2, then Spider-Man 3, then Homecoming, Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2. That's probably be my rank. I've kind of botched that twice. I'm sorry, everybody. But I don't know. I enjoyed watching these again, and I had a good time. I'm going to probably pick up No Way Home on 4K. It just came out. I saw it today at the store when I was getting this new laptop. I passed it. I went, no way. I was like, I'm talking about Spider-Man tonight. That's so crazy. And if it sounds as good as these did, perfect movie to get on 4K. So I'll be getting it. And maybe one day I'll upgrade to the trilogy of this on 4K. I still have the DVDs. I don't even have the Blu-rays of these. So I don't know. Be fun to upgrade these. Fever Dreamland Theater says, awesome show, fellas. Thank you so much, man. We almost went 3 hours.
I know. I'm like, oh my God, I gotta stop talking. Stop talking.
Don't feel bad. I love talking Shooting the Breeze with you, man. This was like a mega-sode right here.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun, man. Thank you for having me on. This is fun.
Dude, man, absolutely. You're more than welcome anytime. But yeah, that's probably, unless you got anything more else you want to add, we're probably going to call it here.
Just thank you, man. It's been a minute since I've been on the show. I'm sorry about, being late. Technical difficulties.
Don't be sorry.
But yeah, it's been awesome being here and chilling with you and talking Spider-Man. It's awesome. Thank you for having me on.
Dude, thank you for joining. Be a great guest as always. This was a really fun show to do. I had a really good time, and it seemed like the chat loved it. This was a very fun Spider-Man retrospective, if you will. And hopefully down the road, maybe we'll do another superhero. We did Batman on your channel. We did Spider-Man. Maybe we'll do another one. Maybe one day we'll do the Avengers movies or something like that down the road. It's always good shooting the breeze with you, man. But everybody have a safe, happy, healthy, wonderful weekend. Stay beautiful, everyone. We will be back next week with the John Candy tribute show. I'm very excited. I've got a lot of show prep to do. I've got to make the John Candy top 10 list and start doing my show prep for that. So I'm super excited. Master Fear says, see you all later. Hopefully next time you do a Spider-Man thing, I could be a part of it. And Mark says, do a Morbius retrospective. No, thank you, my friend. We're gonna pass on that. Miss Carter says, good show. Thank you so much, Miss Carter. I appreciate that. But
John, don't forget Canadian bacon.
Shit. Canadian Bacon's not making the list. I've got most of the list. I just have to watch them all now. I have to rewatch. I don't know if I'm going to be able to watch 10 films, but I'll give it my best shot. Yeah,
and that's a lot.
Top 10 John Candy show. So that's next week. I'm looking forward to that. But everybody, stay beautiful. We will catch you next time only on the Graveyard. Two Sweet Peas, Spider-Man Forever.
Go away.